is week 8 of the Illinois high school football season, and we're glad you're with us here on Friday Night Drive as we get set to go for at least the next hour and a half and see the scores as they come in and the implications and put all the context behind it. My name is Matt Rodewald. We'll have the scores scrolling at the bottom of the screen, some that we have seen, some that we have not. And if we have not, jump in the chat and say hello. As Alex says, good afternoon. It's a little late for that. Good evening. We'll go with that. Steve Soucie, good evening to you, sir. What have you been watching tonight?
What haven't I been watching? I've been rather screen heavy right now, bouncing around to about 6 or 7 games, and then trying to track about 3 or 4 other things that I can't find screens on. So definitely looks like this one is going to be a pretty adventurous game, adventurous week for us in terms of sorting all of this out. Looking forward to it.
It certainly seems like we're going to have some tough finishes, some tight finishes, and we will have potentially some game changers, some bracket changers, so to speak, as this shakedown. What are some of the things that you're noticing off the top of your head, and what's jumping out to you this evening in terms of scores that are still hanging on? I don't know how many finals we have right now, and I want to point this out. As I was at a senior night, many of them were late starts tonight because of senior night ceremony. So this is going to be coming in all the way through the show tonight.
Homecomings, senior nights, it seemed like almost everywhere was starting late. So unlike last week when it felt like we had everything wrapped up pretty early, I think we're not going to have that tonight. So just looking, the one thing that's standing out right now is it appears that Dixon is I'm not sure if that was complete. It looks like it was, and it looks like it went for a touchdown. So I think Dixon is now leading Byron in that game. There can't be more than 5 minutes left in that game at this point in time. So that's been kind of a back and forth affair. Like I said, I think that was a touchdown. Not exactly sure. The feed is pretty far away, so I can't quite tell. So that's been the most interesting thing. Right before we came on air, I learned that the number 1 team in Class 2A, Moreau Forsyth, has fallen this evening to Williamsville. 28-21 final in that one. So that was one that I was kind of keeping an eye on as well. And at last I saw, I haven't been able to get an update. East St. Louis and Edwardsville is a battle tonight. East St. Louis leading 14-7 in the fourth quarter. Last I saw, Edwardsville was around midfield with the ball. So that's what I'm trying to catch up with right now. But like I said, lots of stuff going on, a lot of really close games. So that's very interesting. And then some not so close, but I'm sure we'll get to some of them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on. Oswego about to win, a big win for them against Minooka. That defense, we knew it was good, and they came to play tonight and probably their last tough battle here. I think it's Oswego East next week for them, so they have their crosstown. I still think they'll be the favorite in that one here, but this is their last big-time test to see if they could stop the Minooka offense that has put a lot of points on the board throughout the season. I'm watching right now in Batavia as Wheaton-Warrenville South is trying to make it interesting, down by 2 touchdowns, but they are on their way inside the red zone. So if they can get that to 1-score game, I don't know, because Wheaton-Warrenville South has been this all-over-the-place team all throughout the season. So it's hard to read for them. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one for sure. You watched the backdrop. It's just a fun note because you're watching Byron and Dixon as well. That there's no stands on the opposite side there because they have the brick the building right there. There aren't very many that are like that anymore. And that's certainly unique to see, to have what you would imagine is that everyone's on the same side of the field from a fan standpoint.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting situation there. You get some of these fields that you maybe haven't seen before, or haven't seen a lot of, and you remember kind of the unique quirks about them. I think I've been to Dixon once in my life for a football game. So it has been a while. So it's definitely interesting.
That reminds me of Belvedere. There's also a very similar setup where there's no roadside bleachers. Oswego used to be that way until the early 90s. So that was something that was very similar. And I always love seeing that because it's always a little awkward when you have everybody on the same side of the bleachers for sure. We have some highlights to show you to kick things off. So let's start off week 8 the right way with some highlights around the state of Illinois. So those are some of the highlights to start things off. How about Brother Rice's defense coming to play with pick six there?
Yeah, nice job for them tonight. This was a game that I felt like they could get, and now that they looks like they've got it pretty much in hand, it was pretty critical for them in regards to making sure that they're going to be a playoff team here, and now it looks like they probably are.
Again, we're seeing the scores as they come in. It's going to be a late night for sure. We should expect to see scores coming in throughout the evening. We're getting some of those early finals rolling in here. By the way, Batavia got Wheaton South to turn the ball over in downs. I would imagine, again, it's still plenty of time in the fourth quarter, so keep an eye on that one for sure. From a commenter there, DeKalb and Bradley Bourbonnais in quite the fight down in the Kankakee area there. Not really sure what's happening, but as they got about 10 minutes to go, DeKalb's offense sort of figured things out. Derek Schneeman got his kids ready to go for that one, for that long bus ride. They're trying to get off the schneid and get their first win of the year.
It also appears from what I was able to pick up on that game, because I saw that score early on, DeKalb actually had a lead in that game at halftime. I reached out to somebody I knew that was at the game, and they informed me that Bradley has been rather giving this evening, if you're to understand my needs. So DeKalb taking advantage of some of those. And I just caught across the word East St. Louis holds on for a 14-7 win over Edwardsville. So apparently Edwardsville drove inside the 30-yard line. East St. Louis picked off a pass to cement that victory. So we had talked about it earlier in the week. I thought it was a game that East St. Louis was the favorite, but maybe Edwardsville could give them a game, and it sure appears that they did.
What do you make of that in terms of just initial reaction? You knew East St. Louis would get challenged, but does it say much? I think just the first reaction, this says a lot about Edwardsville's defense and how good it is.
Yeah, I think that. And, I think it's one of those situations where you look at it, and I think it says a lot about Edwardsville in general as well. I mean, just based on what we saw from them early in the year, how they handled East St. Louis when they handled Loyola, the fact that Edwardsville is capable of trading punches with them makes it pretty interesting evaluating Edwardsville moving forward, because whether they end up in 7A or 8A, I think it's hard to say it's a statement game and a loss, but This one is definitely, in my mind, for the nature of this game, wait a minute, maybe that team's a little bit better than we thought. So it's interesting. They go over to St. Louis in week 9. East St. Louis goes down to Florida to play IMG. So both of those teams have interesting finishers. I'm sure neither one of them, obviously, we're looking ahead to those. But, that's for East St. Louis. I'm sure that game was a lot closer than they expected.
Yeah, and there's some teams that may have not wanted East St. Louis to lose that game tonight, because if they lose tonight, then lose next week and suddenly slip to 7-2, where they fall in the brackets is not so friendly down south. So actually, having them where they're supposed to be in a 9-0, 8-1 slot is probably more ideal than anything else for some teams that might see them at some point down the road. Looking at some of the other scores that are coming in, let me go to the I-8 real quick, because Canelan was rolling up LaSalle Peru. That was something's a bit of a surprise, because LaSalle Peru's been playing well. Canelan has not. So Canelan righted the ship. They'll have Althoff to close out the regular season. Rochelle rolling up Ottawa at the half. Last check, they were up big. Running clock, second half. That should be a win. I heard it in the car on the way home, courtesy of the good old AM radio station. Sycamore was putting a hurting on Morris, and that was 35-0 when they emptied the bench in the third quarter.
Yeah, it was never really close. I mean, they got out early. I believe it was 21-0 before we really all got settled into that game. So basically, a dominating performance for Sycamore. Morris is beat up, right now, but I'm sure Morris isn't going to use that as an excuse. It's an interesting kind of a setup for Morris moving forward now. That's another loss for them, and now they go to Michigan next week against a pretty good team in week 9. So, I mean, that's a team that's been ranked in the top 30 in Michigan all year long. So, definitely not a pushover for Morris, and they have to make that long road trip. I mean, they could very easily come back in this situation, and now sitting there they could be a 5-4 team. That's That is possible. So imagine if you're I mean, they're going to have a bunch of playoff points, but imagine if they do end up sliding into the 4A field and you're the 3 seed and you look at the bottom of that draw and you see Morris as a 14.
Looking at you, Dixon.
So it's just like, what's going on here? But, well, if Dixon ends up winning that football game, Dixon ain't going to be a 3. I'll tell you that right now.
That's true.
But that's a potential scenario for you to think about because, like I said before, 3 weeks ago, I'm like, well, I think they'll probably go up to Michigan and get that win. But now I'm not so sure about that. So Morris will be in the playoffs. We're going to have a truckload of playoff points. So whatever group they end up in, they're going to be the top team in that group. So they'll stay off the 16 line if they lose that game in Michigan.
Yeah.
But, if they end up being a 6-3, we're talking about maybe a 10, an 11. They end up being a 5-4, 14, 15, something like that. I mean, that's not what you're used to seeing from Morris in the postseason.
Got a big one that just crossed Lions over York, the final 24-7. So Lions doing what it needs to do there, and they've run the gauntlet. Credit to them for what they've been able to put together there this season.
Yeah, that was a 10-7 game for a long time, and then the Lions punched across a couple of scores late in the game to kind of open up that gap. But, yeah, like you said, just an absolute key victory for them just in terms of, kind of locking that down and getting themselves in position where I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to run the entire table, finish 9-0, lock up a really high seed. So that's an impressive win for them in doing that. It was pretty close, and then it broke away. I was noticing a couple of things on the score crawl as we're going here.
Yeah,
pretty substantial win for Plainfield North over Bolingbrook tonight.
Yeah,
keeps them on the path. Another thing that I noticed was Riverdale got upset by Hall.
Wow,
and that's one of the things that, like, if you're not really studying the back end of the playoff field, that's very interesting because I had Riverdale getting to 5 victories. They needed that win to do it. So now they go from being a team that I had projected in the playoffs to a team that is now out, opens the door for either another upset team that pops up tonight that fights their way in, or potentially another 4-win team. So that's what we're kind of looking at there. And then another final that we haven't talked about yet that just kind of, I saw it there. I knew this was happening. Oswego and Minooka was a game that I thought might be a pretty competitive one. It was not. Nope. Oswego was very dominant tonight, winning that one 42-10.
And also a double overtime classic with Lincoln Way West and Lockport. The Porters are snake bit this year, man. They just can't get anything to go their way. They lose in double overtime, 40-39. What do you make of that in just terms of, the way that game went? I don't know if you're able to catch any of it or follow it or a little bit, how that went down.
I went old school as well. You were talking about how you went old school for Morris and Sycamore. I listened to pretty much the entire second half on that game and the
JOL had it for you tonight?
Yep, JOL had it for me.
Right,
so
that's a good one.
I was driving home. I went out and watched a half of Moments in Watseka, and I was driving home like, oh yeah, that was an early game. So I tuned in JOL, listened to the rest of the second half. Obviously, when it went in overtime, I listened to that as well. Lincoln Way West, making the tough call in the second overtime after Lockport scored and kicked the extra point, went for 2 and got it. So the gutsy call from Lincoln Way West and Luke Locank's crew. That was a game that I felt like was obviously it played out this way, but I felt like on paper that was a dead toss-up. I did not know who was going to win that game, and that's obviously the way that it played out. We went double overtime and got it situated like that. So a huge win for Lincoln Way West. It was one that they definitely needed. Lockport now sitting there at 3-5, but they have a truckload of playoff points. Have to beat Homewood Flossmoor next week to get themselves at least where they're in the conversation for potentially getting one of those 4-win slots. So a win tonight would have been huge for them. It would have put a lot less pressure on having to win that game against Homewood Flossmoor next week.
Let me bounce around here because we see in the comments, we appreciate the scores that you're sending us. Just because we don't mention it right away, trust me, we're seeing it. We will get to it here, and we'll have a discussion point. I wanted to talk about what's going on in the Fox Valley Conference. Nothing tonight. It's actually hold and serve everywhere you go, which is great in terms of how you prognosticate this. Prairie Ridge did what it's needed to do. Cary Grove had a running clock against Crystal Lake South. Jacobs with a comfortable win, put it that way. They were able to pull away a little bit here. to get a win over McHenry. And the Central Rockets in a rivalry night. Right now, it's a 31-6 lead on Hampshire in the second half. They're in the fourth quarter there. So everything holding serve in the Fox Valley as we head into week 9.
Yeah, and that's, finally it kind of settled down a little bit, and we got the results that we were expecting. So I'm sure next week it will be complete chaos because we can't have consistency around here. That's pretty much the rule.
No, and that starts with Huntley, who actually I believe they're about done. If they're not done, they're close to done over Dundee Crown, getting a win, and that team will move to, I want to say, 5-3 with the Central Rockets at 6-2. That is the one swing game you have in that league next week. So we'll keep an eye on that one for sure. Naperville Central, 8-0 now. How good are the Red Hawks? Do we have any idea?
That's a good, solid win tonight over a pretty solid Sandburg team. But, they're not really dropping the hammer on anybody. There have been close games with them. I mean, going all the way back to earlier in the year with Naperville North. I think they've played a pretty strong schedule. Obviously, we felt like all along we were going to have to find out. We weren't really going to know until week 9. So that was basically what it comes down to. And guess what, Matt? Lincoln Way East scored 49 points tonight.
Yay! Got back on the horse. There we go. Good. I was getting nervous about that. We're going to start having some speaks about their offensive production. You're not getting to 49. You're only getting 47. Glad they finally came through tonight. What do you make of Peoria and Bloomington? 44-28. You seeing the Lions get that win over Bloomington tonight?
Peoria must have put together a really good second half because I had seen early on in the game, Bloomington, not necessarily they were controlling it, but they had a substantial lead early in the game. So Peoria must have put together a heck of a second half there.
Glenwood with a game-winning field goal on the Sacred Heart Griffin. It's not your father's SHG, but that's a big win though for Glenwood to do it, especially as we get down to week 8. Every possession matters. Some love for the Freeport Pretzels too over the Jayhawks at Jefferson. I think Freeport's going to get in. I don't know what I haven't followed the Nick 10 nearly as closely as I do typically. Where are we with the Nick 10 right now, other than the usual Hononegah and Belvedere North, who are playing tonight, by the way, and everyone, the Boylans and company?
Still kind of a mishmash, to be completely honest with you, at least in the middle. Freeport looked like they were in fairly good shape to get in, and then they had a hiccup, and now I think it's going to come down to a straight, a game with Rockford East in week 9, whether or not they get in. So, for them, it looks like they can make it, but something happened there in the middle. It looked like they were going to go smoothly in, but now I think it's a little bit up in the air. So definitely trying to figure this out. I'm not sure exactly where the ball is in this Byron Dixon game, but it looks like it's inside the 10. And Byron in a timeout right now. So setting that up, Dixon is up 28-21 in that game.
I had the feed, lost it. So one more time, repeat that score.
It is 28 Dixon, 21 Byron. Right. And I'm waiting to see as they come out of a Byron timeout, to see exactly where the ball is being placed down. It looks like they are inside the 5 here.
Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly how much time is left. But
you and I both have the feed going, so we'll keep an eye on that together there. In the meantime, in the Duquesne, Batavia, now with a 35-13 lead on Wheaton South, so they were able to get that stop and turn the ball over downs, go down and score, and pretty much put this thing away. Geneva with an easy win over St. Charles East tonight. That I believe is 49-14. Got to keep an eye on St. Charles North, because if St. Charles North wins tonight, they would have a chance to go to Geneva, spoil their undefeated season, get a piece of the title, of the conference title, and maybe they would split the conference 3 ways. So that's something we're watching too. Catholic League scores also kind of keeping an eye on those. Again, those are 7:30 starts, but with senior night, some of them were 8, and we're looking at 8 minutes left here, 9 minutes left there. A lot of games that are in the fourth quarter, or just getting to the fourth quarter there. I see Catholic over Vider. We watch the St. Vider Lions have a good start to the season. It's kind of, they've come back to earth a little bit in terms of their competition. It's just kind of tricky for them. But, what does it say about IC Catholic, having to go through this grind here? It's not like they used to have. It's tougher for them right now.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those situations when you look at the Catholic League, you have to consider, I know IC Catholic is not your typical school, but they're still a school with a relatively tiny enrollment in comparison to many of the opponents that they play. So over the course of a season, the course of the grind of the Catholic League season, they tend to get a little bit physically beat up, and they don't have a lot of like tested, experienced guys to fill in if they need them to. So by the end of the season, it's tough for them to be, at full strength. So definitely, huge situation for them next week. They've got St. Rita, and they basically have to win that game to ensure that they're in the playoffs. They do have a ton of playoff points. So I'm watching the Byron Dixon play here, and they are in the end zone.
Okay. So chance to tie it up here. And I'm looking at this I'm looking at the feed just like you are. I am just I'm amazed and looking at this environment, and it looks electric right now for what's going on. The jumping up and down. They got people in the end zones. Is that 2 or 3 deep around the side there? It looks
at
like
least,
it. Yeah. And so they have bleachers on the sides, and I believe is it the visiting side on the near side right now?
Yeah.
Is that how they set that up? That's very unusual for what you're used to seeing. So that's a very cool setup for them. But boy, this is quite the game that we're seeing here with Byron and Dixon, as we had hoped it would be between these two teams, right?
Yeah, it definitely kind of was setting up that way. You started to think about it, and seeing what Dixon did last week with Johnston City, and now it looks like. Hold on a second here.
Are they going for 2? No.
They did.
They did go for 2?
They did.
Did we miss that part? Okay.
That was I'm thinking that was a 2-point play.
Oh.
That was a 2-point play that we just witnessed. I didn't see the touchdown before it. Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. So thank you for the clarification from Kyle there. So that's what we were looking at there. That's okay. So Byron's having to. You know what? And this is fabulous from a Byron standpoint because they've been blowing everybody out all season long. They needed a tight game, and they're going to get the tight game. And if they hang on here to get the win, it's going to be impressive to do that on the road and give you that playoff feel.
There's 16 seconds left in the game, Matt.
Yeah, that should do it.
Yep.
Unless barring an absolute, catastrophic mistake here. So you and I are both watching this here as we go down to the wire on this one. They're trying to set their kickoff team. Watching, hey, you need to go on the field, which is always the horrible feeling you have. Because let's remember, guys, the kickoff teams, the kick return teams, these are second, third teamers. This is their time in the field. They don't get other times in the field. And so if you're not on the field for your kickoff team, you already feel awful as it is, and you worry about playing time even going forward. So just a little laugh there. But okay, so we've seen wild finishes, but this is Class 3A, 4A here, where it's a mountain to move here. In a matter of 65 yards, they're going to set this up at the 35-yard line.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
How much time left? Looks like a matter of 12 seconds at this point. Maybe 2 seconds came off the clock on the squib kick there. So maybe a chance for 1 or 2 plays. Do you know the timeout situation? I do not.
I do not.
So we're Byron trying to hold on with a 29-28 win over Dixon in the final seconds here. They're going to send everybody here, and it looks like a lot of time's going to run off the clock. I don't know if they have timeouts. If they do, they're going to have to use them, and they do, so they use them. So that is probably going to churn it down. I would imagine 4 or 3 seconds left here. Again, this is a good test for Dixon too. They're going to be dangerous. If they fall to 7-1 here, end up 8-1, they're going to be a nightmare matchup for somebody. But if you're looking at those 5-4 and 6-3 matchups would be in the first round, I have a feeling for Dixon, they're not going to like their draw no matter what, because somebody's going to be lurking in that second round, and it's going to be a tricky one for them.
Yeah, that's the way the North is kind of setting up in terms of things. We just talked about it a little bit earlier. There's a potential that it could be, 3-seeded Dixon against 14-seed Morris. That's something that we could potentially see. That's just an example. It looks like the bottom half of 4A could have some really good football teams. So it's just a matter of, how it all lines up.
All right, so we're watching a couple things at the same time, seeing some scores come in. We're due for a break here momentarily, and also what we're going to do is get some recaps as well. While we watch the finish of this one here, let's check in with let's get Sycamore and Morris out of the way, because Morris, a 42-0 win. It was one-sided from the start, and it's just proof that also Sycamore is a really good football team. Is this the year they're going to figure out a way to get downstate? Eddie Carifio was there tonight. Let's see what his beard looks like tonight.
Hey, we're coming from the Daily Chronicle Mobile News Center, or my car. It's 42-0 Sycamore beating Morris is the final. Like we said, it was 21-0 at halftime. Sycamore starts the second half with an emphatic 98-yard touchdown kickoff return by Josiah Mitchell. That's his, I believe, second of the year. He had one from about 80 or 90, I believe, against DeKalb to start the year. So the second one for him, big plays were the story of the game. Caden O'Donnell had an interception in the first half, return for a touchdown. He had another interception in the second half. There was a 54-yard pass from Goucher to York. The defense, obviously stout. This is a Morris team that had scored more than 50 points 3 times this year. They're shut out. It's the first time they've been shut out since I believe it was the 2022 season, and it was 28-0. In Sycamore. 2022 is obviously, I'm trying to check my notes, and it's perfectly covered over, but I'm pretty sure it's 2022. You can read the story on FridayNightDrive.com. That will be up by about 11:30 tonight for all the details on the win. Again, Morris falls to Sycamore 42-0. Sycamore claims the outright Interstate 8 title.
All right. Well, thanks to Eddie for that. And again, what I was hearing in the car, courtesy of our friends in the old AM 1260, was that they were just methodically getting gaping holes and running the football down the field. And, when was the last time you were at Sycamore?
Oh, it's been a good while.
Yes.
I would say 10, 15 years.
They do a nice job. I will tell you that press box is fabulous. Just the venue itself, or the feel of where you are. They do a nice job of football there in Community Field. And the pork chop sandwich is top notch. Again, I've said this on the show before. It's Barrington, it's Sycamore, and it's everyone else's pork chop sandwich. After that, just forget it. It's just a regular sandwich. So good for the Spartans. Would love to see them actually do something real deep this year in terms of postseason play and getting themselves downstate. We're due for a break. We have more recaps. We're going to check in on Oswego and Minooka on how that went down, and also some of the other games as well. So we will get to that. And we're checking in on some finals that are just crossing the board right now. So stick with us here. Friday Night Drive, the Week 8 recap, as we continue the live scores, the live stream, onward into our second half hour after this.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet, or online at hawkvw.com.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interest. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
welcome back. It is week 8 as our live stream continues on. Again, the score is scrolling at the bottom of your screen. If we don't have a score and you're looking for it, well, you have it. Why don't you just throw it in the chat there, especially if you're watching us over on the old YouTube. Thanks for jumping in with us. Seeing some great scores. How about Marion and Carbondale? Shootout down there, downstate. Again, we'll get to the downstate scores and all that. So what are you taking in right now? We've got to the end of Byron and Dixon. Did it go final? I didn't have that up.
Yes, it did. 29-28. That was final.
So we were watching an exciting one. Byron getting a last-second touchdown. They went for 2 on the road to get the win with maybe 14 seconds left. They got it. So Byron comes out with a win to go to 8-0, and the Tigers, the big Northern champs. Dixon falls to 7-1. We had some overtime we were watching a little while ago with Lincoln Way West and Lockport. Do we have a resolution with DeKalb and Bradley Bourbonnais? Because that was tight as well. A bit of a surprise to see the winless Barbs kind of jump up and bite someone the way they're doing it tonight. I don't know if we have a final on that yet. So
last I saw, 42-39 Bradley with 3 minutes to play.
Trying to hold on there. Again, that's down at Bradley Bourbonnais. So I'm looking through some Central Illinois scores. Stop me if something jumps out at you as I read them real quick. Bloomington Central Catholic 28-3 final over St. Bede. We had Salt Fork going down to Oakwood tonight, 42-33. Arthur Lovington 57-10 over Arcola. Going back to that Salt Fork game, that surprised you?
Yes, it did. And when we were talking before about how there was a team that might jump up tonight and claim a spot to take the spot of the one we lost before, that would be Oakwood. So with that win, that gets them to a situation where they can get to 5 wins now. It did not look like they had that path before. So definitely kind of a little bit of a flip-flop right there. So that's a real good win for them.
We saw that note from Streeter. Neil, could you put that back up again? Because I want to see that for sure, because that was really impressive what they said. Of course, Streeter beating Reed Custer, but a 90-yard drive downfield to take the lead with a minute left. And, of course, Reed Custer with a chance at time expired from the 20-yard line is the commenter, right? So we appreciate that. This is the context we need because you guys are at these games. We're not always there. So we appreciate that. We got a ton of reporters out there. But how many games are there tonight, Suze?
Oh, there are 233, I think it was. So, there's a lot.
We're not going to have reporters everywhere. So we appreciate anybody just kind of jumping in and throwing in some information there. Another finals some of the finals as we go down the list here. Normal Community taking care of business over Centennial, 49-6. Clifton Central, a 41-0 win over Iroquois West. Deer Creek Mackinac DMAC, a win over Clinton tonight, 38-20. Let's see here. U-High over Normal U-High over Southeast. We had Mount Zion over Effington in a shutout win. St. Joe Ogden, shutout Rantoul. Do you have a number for St. Joe's points tonight? We play the shutout game. How many points did they put up?
60.
53-0 the final score there. So pretty close. EPG, 48-0 over Tremont. And let's see, Tuscola all over Fieldcrest, 43-0. That's a kind of shifting through Central Illinois. Morgan Park got a win, no surprise. That was a 62-0 blowout, so that got done on a Friday, so that we don't have to wait for them on Saturday. Typically, that's what we have to do here. Coal City smashing Herscher. You got to see Coal City last week. A little angry tonight as they took it out on the Tigers.
Yeah, this was kind of what I expected was probably going to happen down the stretch for Coal City. After taking that loss to Wilmington, source of frustration for them. They have been so very good outside of their 2 losses. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are, but they're pretty incredible when it comes down to like points scored and points against. It's absolutely nuts. The margin that Coal City has put up outside of the 2 games that they lost this year. So in their 6 wins, their numbers are quite lopsided.
Yeah. Let's stay with Streeter and Reed Custer, and I wanted to hear the recap. J.D. Penalty was there tonight. Let's listen in on how that final drive went and everything else with that game.
JT Penalty here. We just went final at Doug Deacon Stadium. Streeter 18, Reed Custer 13. Bulldogs scored with 43.7 seconds left on fullback Tristan Finley's second touchdown of the day. The second half. This one a pass from quarterback Isaiah Weibel. Bulldogs improved to 3-5. Reed Custer falls to 0-8. Streeter keeps its slim playoff hopes alive. but would have to upset Wilmington in week 9 to get there. But thriller tonight, a win on senior night for Streeter, 18-13 over Reed Custer.
So a win on senior night, you always like to do that, and you always like to see the wins, for teams like, we've heard a lot about Streeter football this year just because JT's been covering it all year long. So interesting to how that area of football has been going. And you had said a couple of weeks ago, I want to say Reed Custer's kind of on a downslope right now, and so it's kind of a tough break for them at this point.
You got to feel for Reed Custer a little bit though, because this is 2 weeks in a row, or actually 2 weeks in a row actually, that they've been down to the wire and had an opportunity to win football games and haven't been able to finish it off. So 0-8 for the Comets right now. Obviously, kind of feel like they've missed a few opportunities here to get one of those W's on the board.
Want to keep an eye on Antioch and Grant. Final minute, they're tied at 42. I don't have a stream on that. Do you have a look at that?
I do not. I was going to ask you about that when we came back from break, because I saw Grant has controlled that game all game long. So it looks like Antioch has made a nice push here at the end.
And you know who needs that game to go Antioch's way? Schaumburg does, because they got to win earlier, and that's a playoff point. So this is where these tight games, you got to think of the non-conference schedule in terms of playoff points. Who needs these games to go their way to get that point? So this is a perfect example of, if you're a Schaumburg-Saxons fan, you are rooting for Antioch to win that game and to get that extra playoff point that you may not have otherwise. Staying in the north suburbs and Lake County a little bit, and kind of down towards the northwest suburbs as well. Hersey cruising on Rolling Meadows. I can't figure out the Hersey Hawks this year. They had a good start for a bit, then it kind of faded out to everyone's radar. They back up a little bit. Robbie Gold having a tough one, taking back out in the woodshed down the street, at Hersey tonight.
Yeah, and it's definitely been a kind of an up and down season for them. Out of curiosity, have you seen an update on the Libertyville Lake Forest game recently?
I have. Lake Forest a winner over Libertyville tonight, 42-35.
Yeah, Lake Forest was controlling tempo in that game. Libertyville made a late push, and I was wondering if it had went final yet. So, yeah.
So that is the final there. Staying in that area, both northern Lake County and the North Suburban Conference. How about Warren getting a win tonight? A defensive struggle. Nothing happened in the second half. It was 7-3 at halftime, 10-3 the final score. Warren over Lake Zurich in that one.
Well, with Warren playing Libertyville next week, you kind of felt like Warren needed to get that win tonight. So that was pretty pivotal for them, just in regards to getting themselves, secured into the playoff field. So once again, it looks like the North Suburban's kind of, just bouncing around here, because we got a loss to Libertyville tonight. In general, one thing that I've noticed so far tonight, haven't figured it all out, but we're having a lot of undefeated teams so far tonight lose to non-undefeated teams. It's already happened. Another one we haven't talked about at all, Princeville lost to Rushville Industry tonight, so that's another one that's falling from the ranks of the undefeated, despite not playing an undefeated team. So, I have a feeling we're probably going to be sitting somewhere, 30 or less heading into week 9, which would be real, real low.
And this is the part of the conversation we had talked about on Monday in terms of home games in the first round are going to have to go to somebody. So if you're not 9-0, it's going to be 8-1. Well, if you're not 8-1, it's going to be 7-2. And so, I'll give you an example of this. I'm at my rivalry game tonight for my school district, Central in Hampshire, and there was active talk in the sideline. I'm not kidding. Players, I could hear them talking, going, we got to win these next two because we get a chance at a home game here. If we split, maybe. And I heard a maybe, and I'm like, well, they clearly understand the picture here.
Yeah.
That if you're in that 5-2, 6-2, you have a chance to host week 1 of the playoffs. And there are kids and coaches that are well aware of that aspect of if the undefeateds are going to keep falling, home games are going to have to go somewhere. So that's a team that was 5-2 going in tonight, talking, look, we win these next 2, we'll be at home in week 10. And that's pretty remarkable that there's the awareness of that right now.
Yeah, and it just shows to how people have become cognizant of like how the system works.
Yeah,
and being a little bit more cognizant of football from around the state and your classification too. Mm-hmm. Having a little bit more knowledge about, hey, what do I care about? Somebody who's 200 miles away from me. Well, it matters.
You will.
Yeah. It matters.
This is why we do this show, is to make you understand that and to make you, aware of that too. Let me stay, and as you're watching some games, I'm going to run through some scores. So if you want to catch up on something here, Souce, go ahead and do that. I'm going to run through the north suburbs real quick. We mentioned
By the way,
real quick, yeah,
Matt, 42-39 was the final in the Bradley Bourbonnais game.
Okay, 42-39. So they held off DeKalb. They got the touchdown. I don't know if they went for two, but there was they probably missed an extra point. Either way, they would have had to get an outside kick. That probably didn't happen. I'm just speculating. I'm sure we'll get a recap. I don't know if somebody was down there or not, so we'll get a look at that here shortly. So as we're looking through the northern suburbs, northwest Lake County, that kind of area there, Evanston over Glenbrook North tonight, 17-14. We mentioned Lake Forest getting a win. Wakanda over Lakes tonight. How about the Mundelein Mustangs? Always proud to hear them. They always start hot, then they disappear. You know what? They got a shutout win in Week 8. That's a big deal for that program to get a win this late in the season. So 35-0 over Waukegan tonight. Stevenson took care of business, 44-21 over Zion. And Grays Lake Central struggled, but they got a win over Round Lake, 22-12. So those are some of the finals up north. But we're still waiting to see if we can get a resolution to the Antioch and Grant game. So that's something that I'm trying to see if I can get an answer to for everybody. So bear with me here. They are through one overtime, and they're tied at 48. So they keep on going, I guess. A wild one up there in Antioch, too. That's all the way at the state line. So that's the game of the night right now as we're watching in terms of how that goes down to the wire. Also, Maine West, a 21-14 win over Niles West. Can we talk about the fact that Maine West they put together some nice seasons in the regular season the last couple of years. I don't know what they're going to do in the postseason, but kudos to Maine West for continuing to keep that regular season juggernaut going.
Well, the interesting thing about the Central Suburban Conferences to me is when I look at them on paper, for years it would be Central Suburban South would have some teams that could do some damage in the postseason, would put together some regular season years.
Yep.
The North, not so much. Usually we would have a team get through the pile. I mean, maybe win the conference with a 5-4 record or something along those lines. So it's nice to see a program kind of planting its flag and saying, this is our league. We're gonna for a couple of consecutive years now, Maine West has been the top team and really not having a lot of challengers in that sense. So good for them. It really hasn't translated to a lot of postseason success yet, but I mean, that's something that you have to build gradually sometimes. And maybe that's what they're building towards.
All right. So we're continuing to keep an eye on scores, and we're going to get to Oswego Minooka in just a second here, but I wanted to see if we can, by the way, Barrington over Hoffman Estates, they cruised tonight 42-13. I know Friend was cruising on Schaumburg. Hello, Friend, getting another win. And I think that's all I have of the mid-suburban West at the moment. So, again.
One that I was interested in, Matt, was in the Upstate 8 tonight, Glenbard East and Glenbard South. I thought that might be a kind of a defining game. It looks like it kind of was. Glenbard East dominating that one 41-7.
Yep.
So that's a good solid win there for Glenbard East. Sets them up next week. They've got Riverside Brookfield. It looks like they're going to finish 8-1. So that's pretty good for them. Building towards where they're going to end up in the bracket.
Yes,
it helps them. Definitely factoring into probably the top 8 seeds in their brackets. So a big win for them, at least in that respect.
St. Charles North over Lake Park, 43-13. St. Charles North now at 7-1. They'll go to Geneva. Geneva's 8-0. Basically, the Duquesne on the line. Will Geneva get it outright? Will St. Charles North pull the upset and end up splitting it with Batavia, assuming they take care of Glenbard North next week? That's going to be the key there. Hope Academy keeps winning quietly, 33-25, the final over Bishop Mac there. What do you make of Hope at this point? It was a little easier to understand them last year. This year, not so much.
Yeah, they had to scrap for that win tonight. It was relatively close game the whole way. So, I don't know. I mean, they're one of those teams that, like, to be honest with you, they're going to get into the 1A draw, it looks like, and someone's going to draw them and be like, I don't know what to expect here. I mean, it could be. I'm sure they're a capable team, especially in the 1A draw. But, I mean, because they challenged themselves so severely in the non-conference game. So you can't really look at their record just for frame of reference, Hope Academy's non-conference games were Simeon and Wilmington. So not fooling around for a 1A school. So when they're going to go into the playoffs, they're going to be, they're going to be entering probably as a 5-4 team. That's a deceptive 5-4 team. I'm catching on to some other scores here of interest right now. And of course, I'm the only weirdo that this is a very interesting score too.
You don't sell yourself short on that one.
Okay, Aurora Central Catholic lost tonight 29-6 to Bigfoot, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I need a backstory on why that place is called Bigfoot, by the way.
It's right at the state line, if I'm not mistaken. I have driven through there.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a lovely town, yes.
But
right across the border, that's it.
Why that's interesting to me is because Aurora Central Catholic has put together a schedule that, to be frank, is not very strong. And I thought that they would be able to maneuver their way to 5 victories. And if you get 5 victories this year, I think you're in, no matter how many playoff points you have. And Aurora Central Catholic was absolutely at the bottom of that. Well, they needed that Bigfoot win to get to 5. So now they're another team that has now been moved out of the projected teams to make the playoffs, opening the door once again for another team to rise up tonight and claim that spot. If there's nobody that does that, then it's another window for another 4-win team. So that's where we're looking at right now. I'm discovering tonight that I'm finding a lot more teams that are not coming up with those wins that they needed tonight, rather than teams that are jumping into the field. And obviously, I don't have all the scores at this point in time. No. But it's definitely one of those things that I'm noticing, and I'm kind of trying to keep a mental track of as we go through some of these scores.
I am desperately trying to find Antioch Grant on social media to figure out this thing's going, because I believe they're in second overtime now. That one tied at 48, but I can't find a feed, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. Grant's athletic department gave up 23 minutes ago. I think they're 2 into the game, so that's just a bit too much for them. Let's listen in on Oswego and Minooka as we catch up. Josh was there tonight. A dominant performance from the Oswego Panthers. They're going to be one of those teams that's going to be formidable in 8A.
This is Joshua Welge from Friday Night Drive here at Oswego High School, where the final score, Oswego 42, Minooka 10. Oswego improves to 8-0, and they clinch the Southwest Prairie West Conference Championship. Oswego forced 3 turnovers. They had 3 interceptions in the game, 2 of them by Easton Ruby in the first half. All 3 of the interceptions, led to Oswego touchdowns. Carson Cooney for Oswego, he usually plays linebacker for them. He ran in 2 short touchdowns. Brett Connolly threw 2 touchdown passes to Jeremiah Kane. Brett Connolly also ran in for a touchdown. Again, the final score, Oswego 42, Minooka 10. Oswego improves to 8-0, and they clinch the Southwest Prairie West Championship.
So what do you think of Oswego's chances to make some serious noise in 8A this year?
Well, they have one of the components that I love, especially in the 8A playoffs, when the weather switches down on you. Do you have a good defense? Do you have a team that can kind of keep somebody in check for an entire game if you need them to? And I think Oswego definitely has that. And I think one of the interesting wrinkles, Josh mentioned it a little bit there, Carson Cooney scoring 2 short touchdown runs. I know at least one of them was out of the Wildcat formation. So I definitely think that that's an interesting thing that you might see a little bit more of in a critical playoff game. You throw Carson Cooney in the backfield and say, what are we going to do with him, guys? See what's going on. Maybe he's at running back. Maybe he's a quarterback. You never know. And a capable athlete player like that, he's one of those guys that you got to be always aware of where he's at on the football field, because he's capable of doing just about anything at any time.
Let's go back to the Upstate 8. West Aurora was up 47-0 in the crosstown battle with East Aurora at halftime, and then that clock was running in the second half, 47-6 the final there. Can we hear it for your West Chicago Wildcats? Let's go Wego. 5 wins. They get to the postseason again. How about that?
Yep, back-to-back for them after a long drought. So obviously building.
I don't think they've ever gone back-to-back in their
entire
I'm
pretty
school
sure
history.
I'm almost positive of that too, to be honest with you. So that was definitely something that I had a little bit of running commentary with the West Chicago coaching staff before the season went, because they misinterpreted how I was. My preseason prediction for a bracket is based on a 3-year win model. So they were upset that they were not included in that. And I had to explain to them what that was all about, because they they were like, hey, we got in last year. Where are we at now? And I'm like, well, that's not how this works, guys. But
it's science.
But now they may be in because now they've put together 2 consecutive playoff appearances. So that might be good enough to get them in next year's preseason projection.
West Chicago won a state championship, the very first one, 1974. And it was their last season in the Little Seven where they're like, bye. And then went to the DuPage Valley. They got beat down in DuPage Valley for a long time. They were the doormat in that conference. And that was a really, I mean, think of all those state championship teams of the Napervilles and the Wheatons back in the day. And West Chicago was just like, all right, we're going to go 1-8 every year. But, finally they figured something out in 2003. That was a really good team that I got to cover in 2003. They went to the playoffs. I think they won a game in the playoffs. And then they went right back to where they were. And they've struggled to find direction here. So I give you a long story.
Fun fact about West Chicago, they broke the enrollment system in the state playoffs by winning that state championship. Did you know that?
I did not.
Because they
backstory on that.
They used to figure your enrollment based on the average enrollment of the teams in your conference. And West Chicago was the biggest school in the conference.
One in the Little Seven, yeah.
Much larger than the rest of the schools, but they got to play in the division based on the average enrollment of their school at the time. So after West Chicago did that, they changed the entire system. West Chicago broke the enrollment system.
There's a lot of things they did. It took the IHSA's been piecemealing, figuring things out for like 50 years. And I think they only really got this system that you have now in the mid-90s. It took them 20 years to kind of sort things out. Look, they had 9-0 teams playing each other in round 1.
Yes, they did.
On a Wednesday.
Yep.
That's how they used to do it. So it was different back then. So it took them a long time. They didn't have seeds till the mid-90s. There was a lot of things that were different back then. But they used, to their credit, they learned the system's kind of little this, little that, and that's kind of when you started kind of working through the system and perfecting it the way that you have, and that's why this is so fun to do right now. So I just wanted to tell that story to explain for West Chicago to go back to back. That's a big deal at that school because you couldn't get guys to play football for decades in that building. And now that coaching staff, that administration, bravo to you guys. Bravo to the Wildcats. Let's go, we go. There we go. So congratulations to West Chicago. What else we got here? Downers Grove North took care of business. No surprise there. 41-7. Do we know anything on Lansu in terms of his status? Was he back? Do we know?
I have no idea, to be completely honest with you at this point in time.
All right. I don't think they needed him tonight, but
I don't think they were going to press him into any duty that he didn't need to do. So, yeah.
I just saw this across from the Nick 10. Hononegah 22-19 over Belvedere North. So Belvedere North was undefeated going into that one.
One of those teams. Yep.
And so that just jumbles it again. What do you make of the Nick 10 here? It's 4 or 5 teams there trying to see. I just want my guys from Guilford to get in.
I'm not necessarily surprised by that result because you do have to take into account that Hononegah's loss this year was not actually
not
on
a loss.
It was a forfeit loss. So this was technically, at least on the field, a battle of undefeateds tonight. Yeah. So it's not really – I don't think that's a bad loss for Belvedere North in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all. Not I certainly wasn't alluding to that. But let's just say it's – I'm just wondering if it's more even at the top than you would think there. So thanks to Jaron for the comment. Yes, we appreciate being the #1 high school football show in Illinois. This is what we do. We sit here and we wax poetic about scores that are coming in, some of the surprises. We'll talk about anything around the state. The two of us here have the knowledge to kind of go as far as we can. Southern Illinois is where it gets a little thin for me, but that's me. But having called state championships last couple of years, I got to know the Western Illinois Valley Conference really well. With Camp Point Central and Route and Greenfield Northwestern, all those teams. It's some good football down there, so I always appreciate that. We had Mark asking about LT York. Lyons Township getting a win. We know York's a good football team. We know Downers Grove North is kind of hurting right now. Those three teams, they're going to cause some problems, but I want to point out a score that not really a surprise, but Glenbard West did what they needed to do to get to 3-5 this year. Who do they have next week? that would put them at 4-5 and slide in the back door potentially?
I'm pretty sure it's Oak Park River Forest, and of course it's on Saturday afternoon.
Oh,
so they're going to be hanging around on that one until the last possible moment. So, yeah, definitely a situation there.
Can I tie a bow on our interstate, our upstate 8 conversation? Do we have a Fenton score? Our guys, did
I have not seen it.
Win tonight? Did they get the 6 wins? We need to find this out.
I do have an interesting Southern Illinois score for you, though, Matt.
Oh, yes.
Remember our friends from Johnston City?
Yeah, what'd they do tonight?
They knocked off yet another one of those undefeated teams. They beat Cesar 50-30 in their game tonight. So that is yet another undefeated team losing to a team that was not undefeated coming into the night. So I'm serious. I think we're going to be below 30 at the end of the night.
It's amazing. Yep. Watching all the unbeaten's fall. And you know what? If you are in the mid-level, like the 4, 5, and 6A, and you got your win tonight to get to 6 and 2, you're just doing this because you might get a home game now out of this in the first round, where you would typically go on the road. We have always seen too the idea of, and I always love this in pairings night when the 2 7 and 2 teams face each other and one of them has to go on the road, and you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we're going to have this year. If you're 7 and 2. Wouldn't you say that you're probably going to be at home this year?
Yeah.
Or is that too early to say?
Yeah, I think it's very likely. Oh, boy, there's an interesting final courtesy of Matt now. Montini with a 28-7 win over St. Ignatius.
Whoa. Yeah, I'm going to go through the Catholic League here in a minute, but let's start it now, and then we'll take a break after that because what do you make of that Montini? We know they're good, but that's statement win type material.
That's a really nice win for them. I mean, when you were looking at them heading into the night, 5 and 2, now 6 and 2, finished the season with St. Lawrence. Now they're guaranteed to be a 6-win team. That puts them towards the middle of the bracket. I thought there was potential there for maybe them to lose both of those games, to be completely honest with you, and possibly finish the season at 5 and 4 and be at the bottom of the draw. Now they're moving towards the middle because they have a bunch of points. And if they can get that win against St. Lawrence, all of a sudden they've gone from being where I thought they might be a 12 or a 13 seed to a potential home game. So, I mean, that's the kind of pivot that is. And for St. Ignatius, that is really damaging for them because they finished with Brother Rice. They've already got 5 losses. So now they have to win to even give themselves a chance. So,
and we haven't even gotten to Brother Rice, what they did tonight to St. Lawrence. And that was, I didn't see that margin. Whether one of our all-timer texters jumping into the comments, was I expecting St. Lawrence to lose tonight? Yes. By that margin? No. And in the highlights, you could tell that it was going to get ugly quick if they weren't careful.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's definitely one of those things when you looked at St. Lawrence off to a really, really great start, but you look at their schedule on the back end and you were like, I'm not sure if this is sustainable. And right now we're starting to see that because last week, got beat relatively handily by Fenwick. Tonight they got beat rather handily again. They closed the season with Montini, like we mentioned, at Montini, a team that now is playing for a home game. So it's definitely going to be a situation there. And that's, we're kind of breaking it down now where we thought we were going to with a lot of these teams. We're going to have a ton of Catholic League teams that we know are good football teams that are going into the postseason with 3 and 4 losses.
All right, let's take a time out here. By the way, Antioch and Grant are in triple overtime. I have no idea why. We can't figure out some details on it, but all I know is that they're in triple overtime and everyone's lost their mind in Antioch. And nobody's in any of the establishments downtown because this is a big one tonight. So we're going to see if we can get a final out of that one. And we're going to check in with other scores that we haven't been able to have a chance to get to, though. We're going to get a Fenton Bison score. You don't lose 10 in a row and then rattle off 5 wins for us to ignore whether or not you got your 6th win to guarantee a postseason bid. We want to make sure that we can take care of that. And, they could get to 7 wins. How about that turnaround? We'll get to that all in a minute. This is week 8 as we are live streaming the scores coming in here on Friday Night Drive here on Shaw Local.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm Top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
Welcome back. A third half an hour here as we're in the 10 o'clock hour. We still have games going. We're getting finals still coming in. Why? Because it's senior night and it takes freaking forever to get through everyone. That's how this goes, kids. And thanks for the Genoa Kingston final over Rock Falls tonight. Always like to see the Cogs come up with a win. I'm Matt Rodewald. He's Steve Soucie. And when we talk about senior night, we're talking about football players. Oh, yeah. We're also talking about the band and the cheer team and the dance team and officials that come out to the field and go, wait, we're going to have to introduce all of these people? They're going to have to take a picture for all of it? Look, I work for a school district, and so I'm telling you, it's an awesome thing. I remember my senior night, I was a trail of tears, just walking off the track and crying the whole time. I was a mess for a 2-7 football team. So let's just be, it wasn't a special season. It was just one of those seasons, but I know how much senior night means to parents, and I actually walked through the, you know how they line up in the track and just they're all in a big bunch, you know, and you'll appreciate this, Suze. I walked by everybody. I said, all right, everyone, smile big. This photo is going to be in your parents' house for 20 years. Because it is. I'm sure I have my own photo somewhere in a garage. So, but senior night's awesome, but they never time it out right. Nobody does. So, yeah, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. So there are a lot of late starts tonight. There are a lot of 7:30 scheduled starts that didn't get going until 8 o'clock because of stuff like this. So just keep that in mind as these scores are coming in here. Got a lot of stuff in the Western Big Six. We're going to get to that too. But first, the Northern Lake County Conference lost its freaking mind tonight. Grant upsets Antioch 58-56. That was a triple overtime thriller. Are there highlights? Of course not. Can't figure it out. We will figure out how this game went down, but clearly somebody went for two and got it, or somebody went for two and didn't get it, and that's how that goes. So how about the Grant Bulldogs? That's a big win and a surprise.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, you looked at last week and you were like, well, Antioch beat Wakanda. It looks like they're trying to, wrest control back again from that conference, but now we upset the apple cart once again. So Grant has been kind of storming here in the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. This is a big win for them. I've had them as a playoff team for maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks, but now this obviously, completely cements that and starts to show that maybe they can get out of those double-digit seeds possibly. That's what this win could potentially mean.
Grant gets to 5-3. They have Lakes next week, who's 2-6 if they lost tonight, of course. So that means, Antioch dropping to 6-2. Antioch's going to be a problem matchup for somebody as they, have their postseason sights set on doing some damage in the postseason. They were expecting to kind of get to the dance there at 8-1 if they could, but now they have to go to Grays Lake Central. And I think that's something that's a game they should win. but all of a sudden that's a 7-2 Antioch team that's kind of slips down below the radar a little bit for some teams. That's going to make a very fascinating matchup for somebody.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in a lot of different brackets. There's just a lot of churn. There's a lot of churn there in the middle, and it's like, when you're talking about a lot of these teams, you're like, are they going to be on the 9-win level, or are they going to be on the 8-win level? And a lot of these teams now, they're not in that discussion anymore. It's, are they going to be in the 5-win level? Are they going to be in the 6 or the 7? And like you were saying before, someone's got to be those top seeds. And we're starting to run into a situation in a lot of these classifications where there might not be any 9-win teams on one side of the bracket.
Yeah, on a few.
It's entirely possible. I mean, that has happened before. That wouldn't be unprecedented.
Yeah.
But we could have a bunch of them, because like we were talking about earlier in the week, a lot of the undefeateds coming into this week were concentrating in the lower classes. And now we're starting to see some of the ones in the upper classes that were left, they're falling now too. So I think there are going to be a lot of 8-1 teams looking at a 2 seed next to their name, that we're just not used to seeing that, because we're running out of rooms at the inn for undefeated teams. I mean, we don't have any more. I mean, we're just not going to have any to put on the lines. That's what it really comes down to.
I'm just going to go back to it. If you're a 7-2 team, it's going to be like Oprah walking into the auditorium. You get a home game, and you get a home game. You get a home game in the first round of the playoffs. Let's switch over to the Western Big Six, because I'm curious as to how Quincy and Geneseo turned out. We'll get to that in a second. But first, Sterling took care of business against Rock Island. Drake Landsman was there. Here's his recap.
Final from Sterling, where the Golden Warriors beat Rock Island 47-14 to improve to 5-3 and 4-1 in the Big Six. They get their 5th win after falling at Quincy last week. Drew Nettleton had 3 touchdown passes, 2 of them to Caden Phillips. Wyatt Cassins had a rushing touchdown and a pick 6. And Jeremiah Muhammad blocked a punt that resulted in a safety. Nice team win for Sterling. They will finish the regular season at Moline next week.
So Sterling, they got thumped last week by Quincy, as many teams have. Good response, good rebound.
Yeah, and that was what they kind of needed to do here in this situation. Kind of an interesting back of the season race here with the Western Big Six. And one of the first finals that came in tonight, actually, East Moline went to Wisconsin tonight and played Eau Claire Regis. And that was a game that on paper, it did not look like East Moline could win that game. And they needed to win that game because they have a bunch of playoff points. If they could finish out and finish 4-5, they'd have a shot at maybe still getting into this field. But if they won this game against Regis tonight, they might not have to worry about it because they'd have a path to 5 wins. Well, they scored inside 30 seconds in that game and decided to go for 2 to try to win the game. Did not get it. They lost by. So that's one of those that definitely when you're looking back at, like, if East Moline's up missing the cut, getting to 4-5 next week, that's going to be a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, and Regis, by the way, going into that one, 8-0. So Wisconsin's a week ahead, but they were 8-0 going in. So for them, that was a tune-up for them to get into the WIAA playoffs. Keep in mind, a team that hurts by United Township going for 2 there, LaSalle Peru. They needed that win. They needed that playoff point, and they lost tonight to Canelan. They're 3-5. Now they lost a playoff point because somebody went for 2. This is the math you have to do with all this stuff. So they're starting to kind of slide back away. They didn't want to be here. So for the Cavaliers and Cavalier Nation there, that's not a good thing for them for how that turned out. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on in the Western Big Six. Still don't have a Quincy final yet off the top of my head. I have not seen one. Have you seen one from Quincy and Geneseo? Geneseo coming into that one 4-3. That was at Geneseo tonight, by the way. So fascinating to see if Quincy can run the table, because they're like one of the only teams left in 7A that are undefeated at this point. Let's go back to the Western Illinois Valley. We're in the last half hour for us together, right? So we have to do some Southern Illinois. Camp Point Central got a win over Carrollton tonight. They needed that win. That was a big one in that conference tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those that they needed to kind of pick that up, and Hardin Calhoun was another one. They kind of grappled with Brown County before finally breaking away from them. So order, I think for the most part, was restored this week in the Western Illinois Valley.
Yep.
As far as I can tell, Troy Piper just contributing that Quincy score.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, Quincy a winner tonight, 55-18. We'll post that, show you that for a second.
Yep. So, basically we're looking at that. So, it kind of settled in. Another score from, Central to Southern Illinois that I was interested in tonight, a game between two independent teams, Decatur St. Teresa beating Breeze Mater Dei. That was one that I didn't see happening that way. And now St. Teresa has a path to 5. Breeze Mater Dei doesn't. So that kind of flipped the script there. It's a swap of teams that are projected to get into the playoffs now. But Breeze Mater Dei in trouble. They have 5 losses now in a tough game next week in Week 9 with Mount Zion. And their point situation is great. But if they can't beat Mount Zion, we're not going to have the conversation because they'll be a 6-loss team. So, so that basically that's where we were at. I think Breeze Mater Dei can win that game, and then they become a 4-5 discussion.
Right.
But before this result tonight, I thought that would be the win that would lock in the 5th victory. But now this is the backdoor
3-5 team that we were talking about at the outset in terms of the one you need to keep an eye on to kind of slide in the back door because of all the points sitting there. Glenbard West was a perfect example of what we talked about earlier. So that is fascinating. Did I see North Green win tonight? And they hadn't won in a while. Did I see?
Yes.
They beat Beardstown by cracky. Well done. How about that? 32-18, North Green a winner. I'm going to make sure we mention North Green if we have to. I'm sure there is a North Green fan watching us somewhere in there. So that's a good kind of shakedown of what's going on in the Western Illinois Valley. But again, Camp Point Central getting that win, to kind of steady things in that conference. I was starting to wonder, not that they had dropped off, but if this was just a different team from what we saw in the last 2 years with Camp Point Central. What are the games are you seeing? What scores are popping and that you're noticing? What's coming across your feed right now?
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot that have really jumped off the page at me right now. Have you seen a Sandwich Woodstock North game?
Nope, I've been looking for that one a little bit ago. I'm going to work a little bit harder to see if I can get that one. Sandwich and Woodstock North, because that's a swing game for sure. It's just trying to figure out how good Woodstock North really is. And Sandwich has played a little better in the last couple of weeks here, too. So,
yeah, they have. I mean, when we was talking about the Kishwaukee while we're at it. Richmond Burton kind of pulled away late, got themselves another win over Marengo. So, basically, looking at that conference, Richmond Burton has kind of grabbed control again. But, Woodstock North can keep themselves in the conversation if they're able to win that game.
They were not. I have the final for you. Sandwich rallied in the fourth quarter, got a touchdown with 39 seconds left in the game to get the win, 42-35. And both teams, of course, entering play at 4-1 in conference play. So Sandwich comes out with the win over Woodstock North. Woodstock North now drops to 6-2. So there you go. And again, teams in 5A, that's the swing that's the swing bracket for me because everybody's flying all over the place in terms of where they are in wins and losses.
Well, that was a really important win for Sandwich, I felt, because that leaves them now sitting 5-3 overall and gives them a little bit of breathing room for that tricky game with Marengo in Week 9.
Yes.
Marengo's got something to play for. They're sitting there at 4-4. They're going to be hungry to try to punch their way into the field. And now Sandwich, I mean, not that they're going to ease up now, but
no.
Now it's secure. They're in, so they don't have to concern themselves with that. So it would definitely be a situation where you're looking at it now, and that kind of, I guess, changes the landscape a little bit there now that they've got that win locked in. So, and that playoff spot locked in because they're definitely going now.
Does a Muhammad Seymour win that we expected tonight do anything for you in terms of, say, Sycamore's point total? In 5A at this point, as they keep on winning there because of the non-conference schedule.
Yeah, I think that it does help a little bit in that sense, but Muhammad was I kind of expected them to be where
kind of had that, yeah.
So it doesn't really move the needle per se, but it was what needed to be done, if that makes any sense.
Another Western Illinois one. We talked about the Unity Payson and Pleasant Hill. It's a wild one. That was an overtime game as well. I forgot the final of that. I had it a few seconds ago, but Unity Payson scored twice in the final minute and a half in order to get that to overtime, and they ended up winning 54-48 in double overtime. So we had a couple of them that have been strange tonight.
I saw earlier that the Glenwood Sacred Heart Griffin game went into overtime, and
that was a field goal winner. Yes,
but did you see how it got into overtime?
No,
Sacred Heart Griffin kicked a 50-yard field goal that hit the bottom crossbar and bounced over and in to force the overtime.
Why not?
Yes.
Why not? That's one of those. All right, cool. We'll keep going on that. Hinsdale Central over Oak Park River Forest, 45-21. Downers Grove South, an easy win over Proviso East. Proviso East put 26 points on the board on Downers Grove South. Good for them tonight to actually get some points on the board there. And those are the up-to-date scores that I have. I'm swinging between this one and that one, this window and that window, to try and see if I can come up with some newbies for you, because we've gone through a lot of them. And again, you see the scores scrolling on your screen. How about Oswego pulling away from Yorkville there? Oswego East, I should say, pulling away from Yorkville. I can't figure out the Foxes, and I think Oswego East might give a pretty good challenge for Oswego next week. I think Oswego and the Panthers win, but still, that's an eye-opening score for me.
Oswego East has a ton of playoff points.
Yeah.
So for them, this was one of those games between two teams that both of them desperately needed the win in terms of their playoff situation, because Oswego East was not likely to win next week against Oswego. So they are not necessarily at the front of the line of potential 4 and 5 teams, but they're very, very close. They can at least tap the leader on the shoulder from where they're standing in that line. So basically Oswego East really, really needed that win, provided that they're not able to get that win against crosstown rival Oswego in week 9. Obviously a huge underdog in that game to do that. So for Oswego East to get to 4 and 4 here, potentially be 4 and 5 next week, they're one of the leaders in that group of teams that are hoping that the door is open for multiple 4 and 5 teams, because if that's the case, Oswego East will be a playoff team.
Do you have a Ridge Farm Bismarck Henning score?
I have not seen that, no.
Because I see a score that's, and this is the score I'm seeing, and this is where we got to confirm these things. I'm seeing Ridge Farm 62-6 over Bismarck Henning, and I think that's probably flipped.
There's no way that's right.
Okay,
I'll call that shot right now. There's no chance that's right.
I thought my first instinct was hold on a second. So that's kind of where I'm at here. And as we look through these scores, we are careful of surprises to make sure that we can confirm these in various sources. Source I'm looking at is a good one, but
I just saw a third quarter score that said Bismarck was leading 54-0.
Okay, then that answers that question. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to make sure I had that clear. Peoria Notre Dame went down tonight to Christian Brothers 62-28. Let's see, is there just some playoff notables that I have here? How about just a crazy score for you? Decatur Eisenhower and Springfield Lamphere, 76-42. Eisenhower wins that one. So yeah, I mean, it's not Peoria doing that; it's somebody else for once.
I think that's what happens when you get two, I believe, 0-7 teams together.
Sure, let's go for it.
Yeah, so I think that's what happens. Ultimately, that's what happens.
We had mentioned Williamsville beating Moreau Forsyth tonight. Kudos to the Bullets. They're now 7-1, I think. They kind of drifted off the radar a bit after earlier in the season. Was it Byron that smoked them down there? That's right.
Yes.
That was the Byron game. So after that, everybody just kind of left them for dead, but they kept on winning. And so Williamsville, one of those teams where you're like, I don't know, it depends on their bracket, but they're going to be a team that with that experience to and that pedigree of that program, they're going to be right in the mix in one class or another.
2A is going to look like the wackiest bracket we've ever seen, because you're going to look at it, and if you don't understand the seeding system, you're going to go, why are all these 9-0 teams in the North and none of them are in the South?
Right.
Like that's what's ultimately going to happen, because with Maroa losing tonight and them possibly being the only 9-0 in the South, and there could be as many as 5 in the North. That's going to be definitely something that will be looked at, and everybody will be going, what happened there?
You had blurted out earlier in the week that you had wondered if Mantino might give Wilmington a game. That did not happen tonight.
Nope.
And so Wilmington's good for an easy win, 41-6 over Mantino. Piatone over Lyle. Not really a surprise there, but they did so on the road, 41-10. And let's see here, just looking up and down some scores that are crossing. Princeton continues to win. Princeton Tigers 57-20. We've talked about the fact that they haven't had the D1 stars, but they keep on winning and they keep doing things the right way and getting comfortable wins. And Princeton's going to be a team that's going to bother you here in the postseason.
Yeah, I think so. And we knew that was likely to happen. I mean, it was that loss early on. Just out of curiosity, while we're on the topic of the Three Rivers, have you seen a Rockridge Monmouth score from this evening?
I have not. Let's look for that together. But first, before we do that, I want to make sure that we get in a look at the Southwest Prairie Conference. Hart Pisani had tonight's Joliet West Plainfield East battle, and the Tigers a win over the Bengals. Hart's recap. Take a listen.
Hart Pisani out here trying to stay warm in my car before heading off. Final from this one is Joliet West 42, Plainfield East 14. Phenomenal game from Antoine Brooks, the quarterback. 4 passing touchdowns, over 200 yards through the air. 5th touchdown on the ground. Jordan Bennett, 4 catches, 163 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the real story was the defense holding Plainfield East. They ultimately ended up getting 140 yards after the subs came in. But prior to the subs going in, late in the third quarter, negative 10 yards for that Bengals offense. Just 2 first downs at that point, both on penalties. So Joliet West now 4 wins, can get a 5th one next week if they beat Plainfield Central, and that will secure them a spot in the playoffs. The Bengals are officially eliminated from postseason play.
You know, for Joliet West, they had a 2-4 slate a couple weeks ago, and they're going to be, you would think, 5-4 and in the postseason again. They got 0-8 Plainfield Central next week. And, for Joliet West, that's quite the accomplishment to get back there again.
Yeah, I mean, after that loss to Plainfield South, you were kind of wondering, would they be able to kind of track back up and get themselves to finish this out? But comfortable win tonight over East, a winless Plainfield Central team in Week 9. So it does look like they're going to be able to get to 5 victories. Kind of shoe on the other foot situation for Joliet West. Last year, they went 8-1, got a relatively high seed, drew St. Ignatius in the first round of the playoffs, and bowed out, in that situation. Now they might be one of those lower seeds, possibly playing a higher seed that maybe doesn't quite have the pedigree. So you never know. I could see maybe a West Aurora,
Maine West,
first round game, something like that. And who knows? Like I said, that's West Aurora hasn't had a lot of challenges this season. So maybe throwing a team like Joliet West at them with some good athletes, especially on the defensive side of the ball, maybe that's a tricky matchup if it comes to fruition.
And West Aurora's schedules have not been good, moving to that conference. But there is some talent on that team, and I want to see them actually play somebody, so to speak.
Yeah.
And see how it matches up. I mean, it's not to say that they can't win that game. I just want to see what it looks like.
Sure.
So I think they do too. I think the Blackhawk coaching staff's probably like, kind of going through the motions here in the Upstate 8. We're going to pound some teams, get our second and third stringers in, and make sure that we continue to build the program. But boy, Week 10 is going to come, boys. Make sure you're ready to go for that. So that's fascinating. You wanted the Rockridge score. I got it for you. Rockridge, a winner over Monmouth Roseville tonight, 28-18 on the road. So Rockridge, they got to go all the way back to Rockridge with a win tonight.
Another undefeated team falling from the ranks of the group as well. So
have we dipped under 30 yet?
I think we're going to be close. I'll know that within a half an hour, but I think that's almost assured at this point in time.
Rushville Industry beat Princeville tonight, 34-21. And so, let's see what other scores that have just popped up here. Just kind of looking at Macomb gets back on the winning ways over Bureau Valley, 41-7. Farmington cruising over Lewiston. That was a 47-6 score. We haven't talked much about the western suburbs, and let's talk about your Fenton Bison, a winner in overtime over Ridgewood, 28-27. So Fenton gets the 6 wins. Fenton Bison, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be Fenton at 6-2 and West Chicago at 5-3 next week. I'm sure you all had that written down in August, right?
Well, that is an interesting result on a lot of levels because that's a really costly loss for Ridgewood.
Mm-hmm.
We entered this game with a 3-4 record, and Elmwood Park in week 9, which you never like to guarantee any win, but that would have been like, for me, I felt like if they won tonight, obviously they're probably going to win next week, so they would have finished with 5 wins. Well, now they're going to be one of those teams with 4 wins, but the kicker for Ridgewood is they actually do have a bunch of points, which doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense in the Upstate 8, but they do, because their non-conference schedule has a couple of teams that have won some games.
Who did they play again?
They actually played public league schools, but they're public league schools
because they keep winning, yeah.
Because they still count. They count the same. So
yes, they do.
So they're not in that bad of a shape with playoff points. So they could potentially be a 4-win team getting in. But prior to tonight, I had them in the field as a 5-win team. So now they've moved down into that group of 4-win teams that need some help. And before, they were a 5-win team locked in. So like I said, we're seeing more of those teams fail tonight than we're seeing teams punch their way in.
Yeah, and you know what? One of those teams was I had it and lost it. Who was it? Oh, it's Clemente. That's who they had. They had Clemente, and they have Prosser tomorrow. Both of those teams 5-2. That's a swing game for Ridgewood. They're going to be paying attention to that score because they need that point really bad right about now. So it's a tough loss for them for Ridgewood. But boy, I tell you what, overtime winner, and Fenton, man, I mean 6-2. That's a turn. They've won 2 in a row. I mean, they beat East Aurora, which it's an easy win, but their losses are to Glenbard South and Glenbard East. That's it. I mean, that's pretty good. So it's pretty clear that it's at this moment it's West Aurora, the Glenbards. I mean, maybe South Elgin in there, and then that it drops off. But Fenton's saying we'll be right there in that next mix there. So. Curious to see where they're going to go. You have them in 6A this week, right?
Yes.
Are they going to stay in 6A? You believe that's pretty – you don't know.
Right now I'm not positive one way or another, yeah.
Okay. So they would go up, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think they want to stay in 6A as opposed to going to 7A. Anything else crossing right now that you can look at before we close out our portion of this spectacular episode tonight?
I think what, we were talking about, we never really got onto them very much because of a couple of scores there. The Catholic League tonight, a lot of routes, a lot of not close football games, and we have not been basically able to talk about that in that light all season long. So definitely kind of a settle down week. I mean, Nazareth with a 62-14 win over a Bennett team that's going to the playoffs. I mean, that team is on a roll right now and are looking real dangerous. And the fun thing about Nazareth right now is I don't know what side of the map they're going to fall on. So it's very, very interesting. They are sitting right on what is the dividing line in 5A between who goes north and who goes south. So tell me it wouldn't be interesting to everybody who's used to tearing up that south bracket if all of a sudden Nazareth landed in the south side of the 5A bracket.
Providence over Marion Catholic 34-6. Remember, Joliet Catholic got a forfeit win over De La Salle tonight. And I believe, do we have a Homewood Flossmoor Naperville North final?
I have not seen that one.
Last thing I see here, tied at 48 with 30 seconds left.
Ooh.
So normally we close out the show. Can we hang on a little bit? Is that all right? So we can see if we can get the end of that, or at least a clear update on that one. I want to see how that one turns out here. And then we'll let you do your thing deep into the night sky. But Naperville North football. See if I can find a 2-point conversion. So this is 15 minutes ago. Yeah, they're still going here. Now it's a final. Okay, so Homewood Flossmoor a winner over Naperville North. This is in, I want to say, double overtime.
I saw Homewood
Flossmoor
scored in the first overtime. 56-48 was the last update that I saw.
And that's how it held. So that was one overtime. Okay, I didn't know if they had multiple overtimes. I just want to be accurate. But Homewood Flossmoor, a winner over Naperville North. And again, that final of 56-48. That one down at Homewood Flossmoor. That is a long bus ride back for Naperville North for that one. So, all right.
Big win for the Vikings, too.
Yes, they needed that one, especially after last week. So, for sure, a big win for the Homewood Flossmoor HF Vikings. All right. Thank you so much. We got some highlights. And then next week for week 9, I will stay with you as long as you want me to, because we're going to have to sort all this out, and we might have to do this together. So that way we can go find the scores, and then I can solicit some people to help us, as we often do.
Oh, we're getting a conflicting update here on the Homewood Flossmoor Naperville North game.
Okay.
Just in the comment, they're still going. It's 56-all.
This is okay. Hold on a second here. It looked like it was a final.
They answered. Yep, I just found it.
Answer. All right, so we're not done yet. I thought it was over.
56-all.
All right, I misread the tweet. That's my fault. Yep, I'm seeing it now. Okay, and I'm looking at the play. Hold on a second. And back of the end zone, it was a very low catch that they called a complete. And you see HF guys saying, "No way, he didn't catch it." So. I will let you watch the end of that one together, and we'll show some highlights and see if we can get a double overtime resolution down there in Homewood and in Flossmoor. So for Steve Soucie, I'm Matt Rodewald. Stay with Steve as he keeps going to the night. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, guys. Let's start breaking down these finals. Looks like I've been able to get quite a few of them in from tonight's games, but still obviously need quite a few. Then after that's done, I think I'm going to play around a little bit with what it all means. I've got my big board spreadsheet ready to go, so that's what we always use to do this. Once again, I'm going to try to knock out the rest of these finals as best I can. So I'm starting with the Apollo like I always do. If anybody's got a bead on that Homewood Flossmoor Naperville North game, let me know how that ferrets out. I don't have a good feed on that right now, but I'm just interested more than anything else. Checking a couple things right now before I move on. Okay. So I'm looking for a Muhammad Seymour Mattoon score right now. I know Muhammad won. I just did not see a final. There we go. I just got it. Okay. All right, so now I'm working my way through the Big Northern. Lutheran beats Oregon 24-0. Okay, so got all the Big Northern scores in. Now moving on to the Big 12. 62-62 started third. Nice. Just out of curiosity, where are you guys watching that? I'll try to pull it up if I can find it. Okay, so Peoria beats Bloomington. Normal Community beats Centennial. Christian Brothers beats Peoria Notre Dame. Danville beats Peoria Richwoods. And then Normal West and Champaign Central is one that I'm seeking right now. Okay. So okay, trying to find that one before I move on. Normal West. Naperville North 63-62. My goodness. Okay. Let me put that score in before I forget about it. Not that I'd forget about it easily. Crazy town. Okay. So, right now, first score of the night that I have not been able to locate is Normal West and Champaign Central. So I'm starting my list over here. Okay. Now I'm going to the Black Diamond. $49.6, thank you. Wasn't close, Daniel? I actually was thinking about going to that game, and then I decided that it was probably going to happen the way that it did. So I decided to go somewhere else. Okay, so now heading over to the Black Diamond. Fairfield with a winner. 40-14. Now, the game I picked wasn't much better, but it's probably better than that. Let's see. Carmel over El Dorado. 40. Okay, Christopher. All right, so I need Christopher and Edwards County out of the Black Diamond right now. So I'm going to move to the Cahokia. Chester beats Redbud 44-7. Okay, so we're missing a couple out of here too. So Southern Illinois, a couple hiccups so far. I found one of them, Carlisle 28-23 over Westland. And then Dupo and Sparta. I do not have Dupo and Sparta. So Christopher, Edwards County, and Dupo and Sparta are the two scores that I'm looking for right now. Over Salem 33-7. 7-33. Thank you for the Dupo score. 26 as expected. Roxana 27-8 over Wood River. Okay. So we got those scores all in for the Cahokia. Now I got to go touch up some Chicago Public League scores that I didn't get put in. Not a lot of interesting results in that conference tonight. Pretty much went the way it was supposed to. At least the way I thought it was supposed to. Brother Rice all over St. Lawrence. So now Brother Rice is locked in. 5 wins. Can effectively knock out St. Ignatius next week, who lost tonight. Loyola. Is the Loyola game tomorrow? Is that why I'm not seeing it? Interesting. Having trouble finding a Loyola score. Okay, so I'm missing Loyola and Carmel. Thank you for the Christopher score. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you for the Loyola score. Okay, moving right along here. Down to nothing again. Good job. $16.34. All right. Montini wins 28-7 over St. Ignatius. Brother Rice wins 35-6. Providence 34-6 over Marian Catholic. Marist 42-0 over Marmion. IC Catholic 48-28 over St. Viator. Notre Dame 28-0 over Leo. Joliet Catholic wins by forfeit. Nazareth over Bennett 62-14. And does anybody have a St. Francis de Paul prep final? Never mind, I just got it. Overtime. That's a wild one. Boy, de Paul is just continuing. St. Francis won that game, but that is impressive for de Paul to push them to overtime. Nice job. Okay. So now we're through the Catholic League. On to the Central State 8. Okay, Jacksonville 53-13 over MacArthur. Eisenhower 76. Over Lanphier. Okay. Quincy Notre Dame 54-12 over Lincoln. Yes, East St. Louis Edwardsville. That was a battle tonight. Big surprise there a little bit. I thought that East St. Louis would win that game comfortably, but I guess East St. Louis got an interception under 2 minutes left before they finally secured it. So a nice game there. So what was the Glenwood Sacred Heart final? I know Glenwood won the game, but I don't know. Right now, that's the only score as I move through here that I'm currently missing, Matt. So I just found the Glenwood score. So that one's done. So I'm moving alphabetically through the conferences. So right now, that is I'm not missing anything this minute. I'm only about 20% done of going through all the games, but I did get a lot of them in earlier. Thanks, Troy. Niles North, 24-14 over Vernon Hills. Glenbrick South, 38-16 over New Trier. Maine South, 38-14 over Deerfield. Tonight, yeah, I'm gonna use what I call the big board once we get all the scores in. I'll poll the crowd to know what class you want to talk about, because each one of them takes me about 20 minutes to break down. So whatever classes you guys want to go through, I'll go through. I don't think I'll do all 8 classes tonight, but maybe. We'll see. All depends on how quickly I get all the rest of these scores in. Yeah, I figured that was what you were going to say there, Weta. I figured that was your vote. Okay, so Bloomington Central Catholic beats St. Bede 28-3. Six A is pretty deep. I would agree with that. It's especially going to be interesting to see what teams end up in 6A and which teams don't, because that's another factor that's very interesting about 6A. Got some good teams on the bubble between 5 and 6 and 6 and 7. So whoever lands in there, that's going to be, I think, the most interesting thing about that bracket. A lot deeper than years past. All right, so now we're chasing a public league score. Taft and Clark. So that's one that I think might be tricky to find. Nope, still can't find it. So Taft and Clark is on the board of missing scores. Checked all my sources and don't have it. So now I'm moving all the way down to the heart of Central Illinois. Large. Okay. So, all right. So, Heart of Illinois, Central Illinois. Let's see what we got here. Shelbyville 24-14 over Ridgeview. El Paso 48-0 over Tremont. Okay, so I saw this score as it was developing, but I never saw a final. So I'm going to check one more place. Tri-Valley with the win tonight. Yet another undefeated team goes down. Okay, so now going to the Heart of Illinois Small. Tuscola 43-0 over Fieldcrest. And then Warrensburg-Latham with a forfeit win over them. Macon beats Fisher 23-8. Central A&M 35, Hayworth 14. Okay. Also, this is another one where I didn't see the final. I'm going to check one more place before I ask for it. Okay, I'm looking for a Leroy Gibson City Melvin Sibley score, GCMS. Have not seen a final on that. IBC 34-13 over Pontiac. Leroy 34-14. Thank you much. That's what I thought the win loser was in that situation. Like I said, did not see that final. So St. Joe Ogden wins 53-0. And Rantoul. Monticello beats Prairie Central. Wow, Toronto walloped Paxton 56-6. Thought Toronto would win, but not by that much. Pontiac lost 13-34. Okay. I think I got all the Illinois Central 8 scores in. I do. So now we're going to look for the independents. This is the one that always takes a little while. Althoff all over Granite City, 55-6. Aurora Central Catholic loses, so they're out now. Cahokia beats Collinsville 26-9. Westmont lost by 4. Red Hill beats Massac 30-0. And then okay, so St. Teresa beat Mater Dei 38-34. Okay, so Mater Dei really hurt their playoff chances. St. Teresa is now in the field. I haven't seen that score yet, Wyatt. I also haven't gotten to that conference yet, so I might have it. I just don't know it yet. Refresh my memory. Who are they playing this evening? Okay. Now I'm looking for Madison and Gateway Tech out of Missouri. Okay. I haven't seen that off the top of my head. Actually, I know that Macomb won the game. I don't know what the final was. Okay, so right now the missing scores are Taft and Clark and Madison and Gateway Tech. Checking somewhere right now where I think I can find the Gateway score. So I'm going to try that first. And I do not have it. So Madison, Gateway Tech, Taft, and Clark. So I'm going to skip past that game because that's not really all that important for this purpose. Okay. So now I'm in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. Looks like I'm going to probably need some help here. Sullivan over Tri-County. $37-12. Okay, I need a Cumberland Nokomis score. And I need an Argenta and Cerro Gordo score. So now those are the 4 that I'm missing, including Tafton Clark, Madison, and Gateway Tech. Okay, the Macomb final 41-7 in favor of Macomb. Elmwood wins 55-32. Over Abingdon. Cumberland 42-0. Thank you. So 3 missing scores: Taft Clark, Madison, Gateway Tech, and Argenta and Cerro Gordo. About 60% done with input. $40-61 is the Knoxville score. On to the Lincoln Trail Small. Anawan 56-21. Rushville 34-21. Huntsville 21-34. All right, Stark County beats South Fulton 48-14. And Monmouth wins 58-16 over Havana. Okay, so through that conference and into the Little Illini. Thank you, Weather. So now with those 2 scores in, just the 2 scores that we're missing are Madison and Gateway Tech and Taft and Clark. So now we're moving on to the Little Illini. Okay, Mount Carmel over Marshall, 44-0. Robinson over Paris, 44-40. Okay. Little Illini. Okay, now I'm looking for Lawrenceville and Newton. Okay. Mid-Illini Conference. Washington over Canton, 49-6. Thank you, Weather. Stone is 54-13 to Pekin. Okay, so next up, Dunlap and Morton. Looking for Dunlap and Morton. Okay, so as of right now, missing 3 scores: Taft, Clark, Madison, Gateway Tech, and there's the Morton score. And that's an important one because that gets Morton back into the hunt. So a nice win for Morton. They're going to be one of those teams that is going to be looking for an upset in week 8 over Washington to try to get themselves in. But they needed that one badly. Okay. So now I'm in the Mississippi Valley. Moving along pretty good, guys, at about 70% done. Highlands 63-33. Okay, Waterloo 56-28, and that was the one I was looking for. Those are done. Okay, now I'm in the Northern Illinois 10. Freeport wins 34-26. Guilford wins 14-10 over East. Okay, I need a Belvedere Rockford Auburn score. Okay, so that game's tomorrow, and I thought it was today. So that's still looking for the Belvedere Rockford Auburn score, though. But I have the Harlem Boylan game marked as a Friday game, and it's not. Okay, so Antioch loses to Grant. Grays Lake Central beats Round Lake 22-12. Grays Lake North over North Chicago 35-12. Okay, out of the Northwest Upstate Illini. Belvedere 13-6. Thank you, sir. I have no idea what my dog is trying to do beneath me, so you see me looking around frantically trying to figure out if my dog is trying to eat my feet. What are you doing, Wednesdays? Oh, now I see what you're doing. Yeah, we can't have that. Okay, Lander Giesland wins 18-14 over Morrison. Dupac 54-26 over Forreston. Fulton Knoxville 61-40. Okay. On to the Sangamo. I think I'm at about 50 games right now until we're done, so Olympia beats Pleasant Plains 51-14. New Berlin over Athens 34-7. So now we're done with that conference. Now we're moving on to the Southern Illinois River, Mississippi. Nashville 28-14 over DuQuoin. West Frankfort 40-20 over Anna. Okay. Benton 55-7 over Peterbilt. Okay. So on to the Ohio now. Okay. So Harrisburg wins 44-35 over Heron. And Carterville, nice win for them tonight over Murfreesboro. They're going to move up the seed chart now. Murfreesboro will slide down a little bit. Okay, Marion over Carbondale, 44-42. Centralia over Mount Vernon, 42-15. And the first time in recorded history, I think I got all three South 7 games right. Cahokia 26-9 over Collinsville. Okay, South Central, Greenville, 41-7. King 41-21 over Litchfield. Carlinville 36, Hillsboro 14. Vandalia 56-7 over Gillespie. Mac 29-28 over Stone. Okay. So I go through these and all the way down to the Southlands. So about 30 games left to find. I have a feeling I'm going to need one of these right now. I'm going to try a couple places, but I have a feeling this one's getting added to the list. Thornridge and Rich Township. On the board. So 3 games right now. Thornridge, Rich Township, Madison Gateway Tech, and Taft and Clark. Valley 49-20 over Matea. Okay, Southwestern Conference. There's only one game that I need. See if I can find it. Okay, and I can't. I'll check one more place. Alton over O'Fallon. Okay, so then we're going to go through these and on to the Three Rivers, Mississippi. So really close now, guys. Going to finish before midnight again, I think. Or at least get close. Okay, Sherrard loses 14-37. Orion 37-14. Newman 34-14. Spring Valley Hall was the upset guy tonight. 35-32 over Riverdale. That's going to cost Riverdale its spot in the projection. Rockridge over Monmouth, 28-18. Another team losing for the first time tonight. And then what did Erie and Mendota do? Erie won 37-7. Okay. So now, going to move to the Upstate 8. I'm only missing one score there. South Elgin and Elgin. So that's on the board now. Thornridge Rich Township, South Elgin and Elgin, Madison Gateway Tech, and Taft Clark are the 4 scores that I'm missing. So we move into the Vermilion Valley. Clifton Central 41-0. Westville wins 47-6 over Houston. Oakwood beats Salt Fork 42-33. And Watsika loses to Moments. Kind of funny that I can't find a final of a game that I watched half of. There it is. 38-14 in favor of Moments. Well, that's why I couldn't find it. It was last night. Okay. So, all the way down near the bottom, in the West Suburban Silver now. Dunbar West wins 51-0. Hinsdale Central wins 45-21. York and Lions. Lions wins 24-7. Okay, on to the Western Big Six. Got about 10 games to put in here, guys, and then we're done. Just for frame of reference, Taft Clark, Madison Gateway Tech, Thornridge Rich Township, and South Elgin and Elgin are the scores that I'm missing. Taft wins 42-6. Thanks for that weather. I'm absolutely sure somebody put this in the message before, but what was the Quincy score from tonight? Sterling wins 47-14 over Rock Island. Galesburg loses 40-7 to Moline. Okay, 6 more games. Western Illinois Valley. Community Payson wins 54-48. North Green 32-18 over Beardstown. Camp Point Central 41-28 over Carrollton. Winchester. Okay, so right now I need a West Central Triopia score. Check one place for it. Got it. West Central 42-8. All right. So all the scores that I can find right now are in. The 3 scores that I'm missing right now are Madison, Illinois against Gateway Tech in Missouri. Thornridge Rich Township, South Elgin, and Elgin are the 3 scores that I'm missing from tonight. So I'm going to put the Taft score in. Okay. (42-6). Loss 6-42. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see what I'm most curious about right now. Which is how many undefeated teams we have left. Yep, just what I thought. $26 and 2 play tomorrow, so maximum 28. That is crazy town. So that's the first thing that's pretty surprising about tonight so far. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up what I call my big board. And I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Now, keep in mind, hold on a second, I'm going to change something around. Once I do this, I won't be able to see the comments. So I'm going to kind of have to be able to talk you through what we're looking at. I'm going to start with 4A because that seemed to be what the consensus was in talking about this before. So right now, it is not showing up the way that I think it should. Can somebody tell me in the comments if you see me or a Google spreadsheet? There we go. Okay. So I would like to get this larger if I could. There it goes. Okay. All right. So what you're looking at right now is you're looking at the sheet heading into tonight. So as I make edits on it, I'm going to go through here and change some things around. So what you'll see is I've got the teams sorted right now in order of their record and the point totals heading into tonight. So what I'm going to do is going to start moving these teams around based on the results of tonight. It's all color-coded, so green teams are 8-7 win teams. Yellow teams are 6-win teams. And then we keep going down the line here. So what's happening is I'm starting to show you what the results of tonight meant. So as soon as we get that situated here, I'll change some colors as I go here and move some teams to where they belong. So this will not be comprehensive. You kind of have to guess north-south in the way that it's going to look. I'm getting there, Weather. I'm working on it. So if you're looking at the board and you're wondering what all these things mean, the E column is tonight's opponent and what their record was heading into the game. So that's all color-coded to indicate like where they're at in the grand scheme of things. The column F was what I thought would happen in tonight's games. So for the most part, column F has been true. There have been a few that have not answered that bell. But, so I'm going to move these guys up. Rochester goes up to the yellows. Okay. So Rochester goes up. Richmond Burton won, so they go up to the golds. Okay. Carterville won. They go up to the golds. So what you're seeing right now is the way that the seed list looks without breaking them down into north and south brackets. So as you're seeing at the top here, and we're going to slowly start to scroll them off the field, Chicago Sullivan is your number one seed right now through 8 weeks. Next week in week 9, they play Mather. I believe that's a game that they could win. Breeze Central plays Heron, and only East Richmond plays Robinson. So potentially we could have 3 undefeated teams in 4A. Breeze and Olney would be in the south bracket, Sullivan in the north. So you're looking at a north bracket that probably goes Sullivan 1, Dixon 2, Wheaton Academy 3, Mantino 4. But Mantino will be in the south. I'm sorry about that. That's a mistake on my part. Richmond Burton the 4, DePaul the 5, St. Lawrence the 6. Now, this is factoring in what's happened through 8 weeks, not through 9. That will come later, but I'm just giving you a snapshot of what the bracket looks like right this second. So let's continue moving the 5-win teams around so you can get a better presentation of what matters there. So Boylan's going to stay in this 5-win group because they play tomorrow. Coal City gets to the 6-win group, so they go up. Macomb won this evening, 6-2. They go up. Ag Science plays tomorrow, so they'll stay in the 5-win group for the time being. So does Clemente. Normal University was a winner tonight. Very low on points, so they're going to be in the last group here of the yellows. So Sandwich was a winner. They go up. They have a lot of points, so they're going to leapfrog almost everybody in the blues. They'll go up here. Peoria Notre Dame was a loser, so they're going to stay in the orange. Durango also lost. Centralia won, so they go to the blue. 31 points. We'll move them right there. Okay. So, Kewanee lost, so they stay in the orange. Nottingham lost, so they'll stay in the orange. Seal lost, they'll stay in the orange. Johnsburg goes to the blue. So they move up past those. Lincoln drops down. They're 4-4. Noble Comer plays tomorrow. Mount Zion was a winner, so they go up as well to the blue. Okay, so this is where things get interesting. IC Catholic was a winner tonight, so they go into the orange, and they leapfrog everybody in the group. So they go from outside to inside. Ridgewood was a loser, so they stay in this pink category, and the pink category is for teams now. Actually, they're going to change to red. My fault. So, because they have 5 losses now. So they go down here with Clark. Clark lost, so they're gone. So what the red category is for teams that if they finish 4 and 5, have a lot of points and will have a chance to get in. So North Chicago is off the board. They lost tonight. They have 5 losses and not enough points. Taylorville lost. They won. They're going to get a forfeit win next week, but I'll deal with that next week. So, and then St. Viator lost to IC Catholic. They're gone. Charleston is gone. They lost tonight too. So what you're seeing now is you got 36 teams that still have a shot at getting into the playoffs. What you have to consider here is in this orange group, these are teams that are currently 4 and 4. What's going to happen to them next week? So I believe of this group, IC Catholic, Marengo, Effingham, and Lincoln will lose. So those teams will be down in the 4 and 5 group, which will open the door. I think IC Catholic will lose as well, which will open the door for some 4 and 5 teams in this division. We'll figure all that out later. But I would say that those teams that I mentioned at the end there, Effingham, Lincoln, those 2 teams will be falling out. So that will leave us with 34. Then it gets into a debate of whether or not Ridgewood has enough points to get in, all that other situation. But now let's go back up to the top. Let's talk about the North bracket and Constars. So your North bracket, to me, looks like Sullivan 1, Dixon 2, Wheaton Academy 3, Richmond Burton 4, DePaul 5. Not sure where Coal City would fall. I believe they will be in the South bracket. St. Lawrence 6, Morris 7, Sandwich 8, Boylan 9, Johnsburg 10, Ag Science. Actually, I'm going to move Ag Science up because I think they're going to win. So Ag Science goes up. They go behind St. Lawrence. So 7 St. Lawrence Ag Science, 8 Morris, 9 Sandwich, 10 Boylan, 11 Johnsburg, 12 Clemente, 13 Geneseo. And then we get into how we're going to factor in the 4 and 5s. I think potentially IC Catholic, maybe Ridgewood, and then Noble Comer might be in there as well. So that's the back end of the bracket. So that gives you a look at the North, the South, Greece Central 1, East Richland 2, Waterloo 3, Cahokia 4, Rochester 5, Carterville 6, Coal City 7. Actually, I skipped Manteno there, didn't I? I'm not sure where Manteno is going to factor, north or south. I think they're south. That's my instinct. So Central 1, East Richland 2, Waterloo 3, Cahokia 4, Manteno 5, Rochester 6, Carterville 7, Coal City 8, Macomb 9, Murfreesboro 10, Normal University 11, Centralia 12, Columbia 13, Mount Zion 14, Peoria Notre Dame 15, and Taylorville 16. That would be my guess based on who's there right now. So that's the South bracket. All right, so the next request I got was for 8A, so I'm going to switch over to that right now. Once again, we're going to do the math on what happened tonight first. Naperville Central 1, Lincoln Way East 1, Lyons 1, Oswego 1, Aurora West 1, Palatine 1. So everybody's winning tonight, which is pretty much exactly what I thought would happen. Marist 1, Stevenson 1. This seed stack is going to say pretty much exactly the same. These schools are going to go to green. And then Taft 1, so they're going to climb over York, who lost to... So the fun thing about 8A is that you don't have to worry about North and South brackets. So we can actually kind of pair off teams right now. Manuka lost, so they're 6-2 now. Sandburg lost 5-3. Loyola Lewin 6-2. They catapult over York and... Okay. No, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. That's better. Okay. So Naperville North 1, so they're going to go up as well. Those two need to be changed to yellow. Okay. So Plainfield South 1. So they're going to crawl up here as well. All right. So those are the 6-win teams. And now you can start to see some pairings forming here. At least potential pairings. Now keep in mind, all of this is done after 8 weeks. We're not really factoring in the Week 9 game, who their opponent is. You can see who the Week 9 game is over in column G. So if you want to kind of peek ahead and think to yourself, well, what could happen in Week 9 to change these stacks? That's what you need to look at. The Week 9 opponent is in column G. I have not highlighted them because obviously records are going to change. But as you can see, as I change these teams from orange to blue, starting to see what the middle of the field can look like. For example, 17-16 game, Sandburg against Plainfield South. The 18-15 game would be Warren and Manuka. The 19-14 game would be Maine South and York. So this is just getting kind of a mock-up of what's going on here. Belleville East will move up. Homewood Flossmoor stays in the orange. I'm just going to speculate that South Elgin won that game, even though I don't officially have a final. I'd be really surprised if they didn't. If they didn't, then it's a whole other argument. But let's move them up. Downers Grove South won, so they go to the yellow. So actually, there's going to be some adjustments made here. DGS is moving up a little bit here. So yeah, so those are going to refactor those middle bracket games, but we'll go back through them. Huntley a winner tonight, so they go up to blue. Well, Bonzi a loser, so they stay at orange. Did Miles West win tonight? I think they did. This is when my memory starts to play tricks on me. Okay, guys, so once I finish this one, are there any other classifications you would like me to go through tonight? So Niles West lost, so they stay in the orange. Leiden lost. Okay. Working on 8A right now, Aiden. So Huntley goes up. It's right there. Okay, I'll do 3A next and then 7A. All right, so St. Ignatius has a ton of points, so they're going to stay on the board, but change to red, so they have to win next week. Oswego East has a tough game next week, but they at least are in orange, which means they will have a chance because they also have a ton of points. So they're going to move up, but I think their situation is really, really dangerous. Plainfield North, the winner tonight. They go up. They have good points. Tough week 5 with Yorkville, but they should be able to get that to lock that spot up. Lockport, a tough loser tonight. They're going to go to the same thing that St. Ignatius is. They're red now. And Curie won, so they're 4-4 now, and they're in orange. Okay. So, starting to get a little bit of a picture here of what this could look like. Once again, I repeat, just to be accurate, this is through 8 weeks. I am not factoring in the Week 9 game yet. That will come later. I will do that tomorrow in anticipation of the Week 9 bracket projection, which will come out on Wednesday, which will have all that factored in. But what we're doing right now is we're looking at what happens based on we're through 8 weeks. We've got most of the results. It will allow us to do that. And then once I get these last few teams moved around, it will give us a somewhat decent picture of what this could look like. Rich Township, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I do think they're going to win that game. We did not find a score in Rich Township and Thornridge. They are problematic because I'm virtually positive they're not going to win in Week 9. So I think I just moved them for no reason. But they're still in the hunt, so they have to keep on the board. Okay. So that goes there. And then Lake Park drops to 3-5 tonight. Their points are very, very low, so they are off the board. So Lane kept themselves in the hunt for a win tonight, and they actually move past St. Ignatius because they have a ton of points. So that was a big win for Lane tonight in the grand scheme of things because they're going to move to the front of the line, or close to the front of the line, I should say. So let's look at the situation here. Leiden is listed on that line 34. They're not. I don't think they're going to win. So what this comes down to is it's basically a playoff game between Homewood Flossmoor and Lockport in Week 9. So for sake of argument, I'm just going to say Homewood Flossmoor is going to win that game. And I'm going to keep them in that orange group for right now. Oswego East is a team that's likely to lose, I think, in my opinion, in Week 9. They also have a lot of points. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here in this group. So I think Leiden and Rich Township are going to be out. I think Hinsdale Central is going to fall out of this group as well. And that does it. So that's going to leave the door open for a 4-5. If Lane can win, they would be in the front of that line. St. Ignatius also is in that hunt. But for the sake of argument, let's just go through here and look at it. So these would have right now, Lincoln Way East and Naperville Central are tied at the top of the board. They play each other in Week 9. So for sake of argument, I'm going to say Lincoln Way East is the 1 seed here. They will play based on what's through 8 weeks. Joliet West would be their opponent. The 2:31 game would be Lions and Niles West. The 3:30 game would be Oswego, Waubonsie Valley. The 4:29 game the 5:28 game Glenbrook South and Aurora West, the 627, and so on. So right in the middle, you got like Plainfield South at Minooka, Sandburg at Downers Grove South, Warren at York, Maine South at Naperville North. So that's a quick peek at Week 8 results. Once again, you look at that. The Rochelle staying in 5A, I'm not really sure yet whether. I haven't seen enough tonight to convince me that there's going to be much moving on the bubbles. So I think Rochelle would stay in 5A, but right now that still is so close to call. So I'm going to work on 3A next. So that was the next request. So Byron went to 8-0. St. Joe Ogden went to 8-0. Sullivan went to 8-0. Hopefully I can keep my dog from barking too much here. She's getting fired up. Eureka lost tonight to Tri-Valley. South Shore is now 8-0. So South Shore goes up. Durand won. Williamsville won. North Lawndale did not win. DuQuoin did not win. Princeton won. Monticello won. Greenville won. Paxton did not win. New Berlin won. Marshall. I think that's tomorrow. Okay, so let's change some teams around. Durand goes up. Williamsville goes up. Big win for them tonight over Maroa. And Princeton will go up. Okay. And then you've got New Berlin going up. Green Monticello going up. And Greenville going up. Now, these point totals are through 7 weeks. I don't have time to transfer it all over right now for everyone. So that's something that I will obviously be doing over the course of the next few days. But this is, like I said, just a snapshot based on Week 8 results of what happened tonight. So some of these teams will King goes up. Some of these things will change too, because some of these teams play on Saturday, so we don't really know what's going to happen with them. But as we start to move these teams around, so Phoenix is an interesting situation because they're in one of those conferences that they have to finish in the top 2 in the league. So they're going to have to play a playoff game essentially in Week 9 to try to get second place in a second place spot, because they cannot win their conference. So they're kind of a unique team. But for now, I'm going to keep them in, even though I'm not confident they can win that crossover game. So, but they're interesting. Tolono will go to blue. Piatone will go to blue. Herscher was a loser tonight, so they go to 4-4. Oregon lost. Benton won. Stillman won. So the back end of this field, this orange group has a lot of teams that lost tonight. So that's going to make it kind of blurry on the back end, but we'll try and figure it out. Staunton lost. Prairie Central lost. Fairfield won. Olympia won. Clinton did not win, which was a bit of a surprise. Harrisburg won. So we'll move these teams up. And the interesting thing about that is we're not going to have 32 teams here that I believe, we'll just have enough of teams that are at least orange at this point in time. Herscher's got a good point situation, but a problematic week 9 is they got to go to Piatone. So Genoa 1, Mount Carmel 1, Litchfield, they're off the board now with 5 losses. West Frankfort 1, Aurora Central Catholic is off the board. Okay, so these guys are all orange now, but some of them have problematic week 9 games. So Robinson, I cannot remember what they did tonight, to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to look. They did win. So they are hanging on by a thread. But they play undefeated East Richland in week 9, so that doesn't look promising for them. Okay, so in this last group, this orange group, the teams that I think are in trouble this week to try to get to 5 wins are Genoa, Poplar Grove, North Boone, Clinton, which wasn't in trouble before tonight, and Prairie Central, Staunton. So there's a whole bunch. Oregon, I think will win. Herscher, I do not. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of those teams in the orange are potential dropping to 4 and 5 teams. So what ultimately is going to have to happen in this class is we're going to have to get some different teams because there's not enough there. And I don't think, like, for example, I don't think Herscher's point total is high enough for them to be like a 4 and 5 team that gets in. So ultimately that means that some new teams are going to have to move into this bracket from the mock that we had last week. So that's where I'm going to see a little bit of a line shift. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But just taking a snapshot of what it looks like. On the north side, you would go Byron 1, South Shore 2, Durand Pecatonica 3, Princeton 4, let's see, Monmouth 5, maybe Eureka, I think 6, Montini 7, North Lawndale 8, King 9, Dyett 10, Marshall 11. On the south side, St. Joe Ogden in the 1 spot, Sullivan 2, Williamsville 3, Monticello 4, Greenville 5, New Berlin 6, DuQuoin 7, Paxton 8. So that's the top half of the 3A bracket. So, but like I said, this one's gonna change because we don't have enough teams. Like after we look through tonight's, like what I said, we got 38 on the board. There's a large swath of those teams at the bottom that I do not believe are going to get their 5th win. So we're going to need to figure out some other places to get these teams from. So then we're going to go on to 7A as requested. Let's start at the top. Quincy is 8-0. I'm going to leave Whitney Young and Lincoln Park at 7-0 technically, but I think actually I'm going to move them right now. I'm going to move them to 8-0, even though both of those teams play tomorrow. I think both of them win. St. Charles North was a winner. Glenbard East was a winner. Edwardsville was a loser, but put a nice showing together for themselves. I'll give them that. So then these guys are going up. Batavia winner. Normal-Com a winner. Downers Grove North a winner. Hononegah a winner. Harlem plays tomorrow. I'm going to leave them at 6 wins, even though that's not going to be accurate. I don't know for sure if they're going to win that game tomorrow. Maine West a winner. Mount Carmel a winner. Schaumburg lost tonight. They're 3 now. Rita a winner. Prospect a winner. Hoffman Estates a loser. Okay, Jacobs a winner. Moline a winner. So Andrew a loser. Rolling Meadows a loser. Lincoln Way West, a thrilling win for them tonight. Collinsville, a loser. Brother Rice, a winner. Percy, a winner. Lincoln Way Central, a winner. Revis, a loser. West Chicago, a winner. Wheaton North, a winner. Mundelein, a winner. Elk Grove Village, a loser, and they're off the board now. Yorkville, a loser. They're also off the board. Argo, a winner. Okay, now my dog is getting chatty. Okay, so once again, you'll see some teams down here at the bottom that are marked red. Kenwood plays tomorrow, but is in very good point situation. So they're going to stay down here. St. Charles East comes off the board. They took their 6th loss tonight. So as you can see, we've got 35 teams that are still kind of in the hunt here. I'm going to just mark Kenwood at 3 and 5 just to be safe, even though that's not official. So what we have to consider, look at the next group. You've got Mundelein playing Lake Forest, so I do not think that they're going to get out of this situation. So that's going to put us, and then I've got Revis in the orange group as well, that I think is going to lose their Week 9 game. So that puts us at 33 teams. And then I've got Collinsville here at 4 and 4, and I think they're going to lose to Triad in Week 9. So that's going to leave us with 32 teams. If you remove those 3 teams, Collinsville, Revis, and Mundelein. So that's going to leave us with 33 teams. So I'm going to move these teams around here based on their divisionals, because I just did the wins and I didn't do anything else. So these guys are all going up to blue status. The reason I'm doing this is so it gives us a clear idea of how many teams are in each group. So as you can see, there are already 28 teams with 5 wins or more in this group. So not a lot of moving in the group as far as that goes. So I'm going to move these guys up. But really, I probably shouldn't, because I don't think they're going to be here in the long run. That's what the projection process is for later on. So let me move some of these teams up into the greens. So once again, just to frame it again, not really strongly considering what the Week 9 opponents are. That's what comes later this weekend. But this gives us a pretty good idea that, and most of these teams will win in Week 9. So where they're stacked right now isn't likely to move very much. The only way that happens is if you see teams that are like bunched together by maybe like a few points, like 1 point separates another one. You can get a little bit of point movement there. But if you see teams that like are probably going to end up with the same record that have like 4 points difference between them right now, that's not going to move very much. So that's just reality. So then Mount Carmel's going to move up. And this is what I've been watching all along with Mount Carmel, is that if they could just, if they get through this season and end up in the 7-win group with a win over Loyola next week, they're going to end up with a pretty good seed, despite the 2 losses, because of all the playoff points. Okay, so let's move these guys up. Jacobs. Okay. So I'm going to move these guys up to their proper places, and then I can get you an idea of what I'm looking at. Okay, 7A. 7A, once again, one of the easy ones to do in terms of like trying to project, playoff teams and seeds and things of that nature. I'm also trying to fight my dog for a sock right now. So That's slowing me down a little bit. I apologize. That sock is going to be absolutely destroyed. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to bother with the colors so much right now. Actually, it makes me feel better if I do it. So I have a little bit of OCD. Okay, so let's look at this one. Okay, at the top, you're going to have Quincy, Whitney Young, Lincoln Park. Not entirely sure Whitney Young wins in week 9, but that's an argument for another day. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you see the top 8 right there. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So right in the middle of the bracket, Jacobs at Prospect, Moline at St. Rita. Harlem, well, they could win tomorrow, but if they don't, they're going to stay here at 19. If they do, then they would catapult all the way up to like 8 or 9. So they're the kind of the wild card here. Lincoln Way West, just for example, at Mount Carmel, Schaumburg, Maine West, Brother Rice, Brother Rice and Bradley Bourbonnais, Hersey, Addison Trail, Hoffman Estates, Hononegah, Downers, Lincoln Way Central at Downers Grove North, Tinley Park, Rolling Meadows down here at the bottom, West Chicago, Wheaton North, like we already talked about, some of these teams at the bottom, Argo, Kenwood, Glenbard West. Glenbard West would get Quincy. Kenwood would get Whitney Young. So, but I'm not sure Whitney Young wins that game in week 9. So that could be Lincoln Park instead. So that is your 7A breakdown. The next request was 6A. So let's go hang out there. All right. So Libertyville lost tonight. So that's going to knock them off that one line. East St. Louis 8-0. Geneva 8-0. Belvedere North lost tonight. Cary Grove 8-0. So now you're looking at a situation where there are only 3 teams in 7A that are still undefeated. So that makes for an interesting little setup, considering that East St. Louis is playing IMG next week, and I don't necessarily think they're going to beat the nationally ranked number 5 team. I think we're going to end up with 2 teams that are undefeated in 7A. So Oaklawn Richards won tonight. Fenwick did not. Bloomington did not. See, this is what you're seeing now. A pretty low amount of 8-win, 7-win teams. Antioch also lost tonight. Simeon plays tomorrow. So does Kennedy. So just for sake of argument and discussion here, I'm going to give them both wins tomorrow, even though that's not a guarantee, but I do think they're better than those teams. So I'm going to move those guys up. Make these guys all green, as they should be. So right there, you're kind of seeing the top 9 in the green there. But once again, I think East St. Louis is going to lose next week. So they're likely to drop down from number 1 to number 4, it looks like, in this scenario. But you have to bracket these north and south. So then you're going to go Geneva number 1, Cary Grove number 2, Libertyville number 3, Belvedere North number 4. Simeon and Kennedy will both be in the south bracket, as weird as that sounds. I think Fenwick is still in the north, but I'm not sure about that. But that I think they're going to be in that situation. So Glenwood actually moves up past those teams with their point situation. Washington was a winner. They will go up a little bit here too. So that is that. Washington goes up. Their gold. Okay, Pekin goes up. Their gold. Wakanda goes up. Dunbar South lost tonight. Lake Forest won tonight. Springfield lost tonight. Normal West won tonight. Mather beat Crane there, 6-2. Crete won. Oak Forest did not win. Fenton won. Shepherd won. So Wakanda is gold. All right. Lake Forest, gold. Normal Community West, gold. Gold on Mather. Gold on Crete. So a lot of teams in the 6-win group in 6A, so that's pretty interesting. So what you're going to see, because you see so few teams in the top group, I think you're going to see some 6-win teams ultimately at the end of the season get a home game, because we just aren't going to have a whole bunch of teams other than that. This is Illinois, Trevor. I have no idea why this popped up on your, on your screen. Okay, so Fenton goes up, but they're very low in points. So, and so is Shepherd. They're also very low in points. Okay, so those teams go up in the golds. Lamont goes 5-3, 39. Okay, so just to tip you off a little bit now, because we're getting to the point where I think I'm going to wrap up for the evening after I finish this up. So just to let you know, next week we'll do a little bit of work in these worksheets, but I'm actually going to be trying really hard to like zero in on what the field is and form actual brackets on the information that we have. So that will happen as quickly as I can get to it. So you guys that have been really helpful with getting me scores, if we can get the scores done as fast as possible next week, then we'll just go straight into bracket talk and who's in, how many 4 and 5s we're looking at, the scenarios that will be in play on Saturday. Those will be the things that we'll be looking at as soon as I can possibly get to them. So hopefully that will be very quickly. The goal is to be talking about brackets by 1 o'clock in the morning on next Friday night. So hopefully that will work out well. But we will be using these worksheets through the show as we're going. So we'll be able to get a better picture of what we're looking at. Like I said, I'm just kind of finishing up 6A here to kind of get a picture of what's going on. Big win for Grant tonight, so they're going to move up into the next group. That's blue. So as you can see, some interesting teams here in this 4-win group. Chicago Sen, I cannot remember what you did. I think that's a Saturday game, so I'm going to leave them alone. East Moline, tough loss for them tonight, but I'm going to leave them in the red like we talked about. I'm going to just, for the sake of argument, I'm going to take them off right now because I think they're going to lose to Lincoln Park tomorrow, undefeated Lincoln Park. Rockford East lost tonight. They had bad points, so they're gone. So is Maine East. So 36 teams on the board. Sen, I'm not sure what they're going to do. I think they're going to win this game on Saturday. That would get them their 5th win, so that would move them out of this group entirely. So that's one thing. I'm just trying to get you a picture of who the 32 teams are. Willowbrook, what's wrong with their there's something wrong with that one. Yeah, they're 5-3 now. So they go up here. Okay, so in this group, like I said, we've got 36 teams on the board. Willowbrook goes right there. Wheaton Warrenville South should win. Lake Zurich up in the air. Not sure they will. Not sure Riverside Brookfield will win. Don't think Eisenhower will win. I do think Deerfield will win. So what you're seeing there, Sen will probably win tomorrow. I do not think they'll win in week 9. So if they win tomorrow, they get to the 5-win group. So then that leaves us, like I said, I think Lake Zurich, Brookfield, Eisenhower will all lose their games, and then that will leave us with 33 teams, meaning we probably would not need Oak or East Moline. Looking at the north side of the bracket, top seed Geneva, second seed Cary Grove, third seed Libertyville, fourth seed Belvedere North, fifth seed probably Fenwick, sixth seed Wakanda, 7 Lake Forest, 8 Mather. The south side, I'm going to say I'm expecting an East St. Louis loss in week 9, so the south side top seed will be Kankakee. The 2 seed would be East St. Louis. The 3 Oaklawn Richards, the 4 Simeon, the 5 Kennedy. And that's contingent on some other things. Kennedy could slide. Glenwood the 6, Bloomington the 7, Washington 8, Pekin 9, Normal West 10. So that's the breakdown of 6. Like I said, we're going to take a look at some other stuff. Next week, we'll use these boards while we're talking about what's going on during the regular show. But we'll almost immediately try to get all the scores that we can in. Matt Rodewald is going to kind of take the lead next week and do a lot of talking about the week 9 results while I'm inputting information. So I can have as many scores as possible already in the system, and we can start breaking down classifications, what the field looks like, where the bubbles are, and those situations. We can get into those a lot deeper. But I hope this was at least an interesting kind of snapshot of where we're at after week 8, kind of give you a preview of what the projection will most likely look like heading into week 9. Once again, thanks for everyone's help tonight tracking down scores. Really appreciate it. But like I said, next week, get your coffee mugs out because we'll be up late, and I do plan to produce brackets that will go on Friday Night Drive. So if you're a subscriber to Friday Night Drive, you'll have access to a fresh projection very, very late on Friday night for all 8 classes. That's my intention. In years past, that process usually wraps up at around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then going into that final Saturday, I will be keeping a log on Friday Night Drive, talking about every Saturday result that can affect the draw. And then as those finals come in, making adjustments to the projections live in real time on Saturday. So that's the game plan for next week. As well, all week long, I'll be providing content, breaking down the key games, both all the 4 and 4 games and all the top games in regards to who the top seeds are. Also be putting together a map to the road to 256 and how we're going to get there, what we need to watch for in terms of 4 and 5 teams, who might get in, who might not, and how we're going to decide to get there. So all that stuff is coming next week at Friday Night Drive. Hope you'll join us. If you're already subscribed, all that information will be readily available for you. And once again, next Friday, we're gonna do what we usually do for the first hour and a half. We're gonna break down those week 9 results, but Matt's gonna kind of take the lead on that. I'm not gonna be commenting a whole heck of a lot on week 9 results unless they impact the field. So, upset wins that get a team in, upset losses that bump a team out. That's where my focus will be next week. Matt will be talking about the big games, the scores, the results of those natures, kind of guide you along there while I'm trying to input scores so we can have the best possible picture as quickly as possible in terms of what needs to happen, what we're looking for on Saturday, and all those things. So just trying to give you a snapshot for that. Those of you that are subscribed to Friday Night Drive, more than enough information. Thinking about maybe doing a midweek Q&A on this format as well, where we can talk about the classes. If people are interested in coming, I'll answer your questions, and we can do that kind of stuff as well. In addition to the podcast, hope you'll join us for those as well. Matt and myself on Monday and Wednesday. Got the other guys that drop theirs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So plenty of information coming in on week 9. We're really looking forward to bringing it all to you and hope you all enjoy it. And once again, thanks for everybody that helps with those scores. Really, really appreciate it. Looking forward to week 9. Should be really exciting. Lots of stuff that could affect these playoff fields and how these teams are ultimately bracketed in. Should be a fun week. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.